The sunlight fell from the dense tree crowns, scattering like broken gold on the moist moss. Yanran opened her eyes quietly. No, she had no eyes. She felt that she was a soft and sticky thing, and her transparent rubber body moved slightly in the slightest wind. Panic came like a tide, and she tried to scream, but only let out a deep gurgle, like a fruit swaying in a bowl. What kind of ghost place is this? Her thoughts became a group. A moment ago, she was still in a rental house in the city, staring at the boring web page on the computer screen, complaining that life was too boring. The next second, a single slap swallowed nothing. Now, she is lying around the forest of the strange world, surrounded by ancient trees, the fragrance of soil and wild flowers in the air, and the rustling sound of birds and leaves rubbing from afar. Her body is slime. A group of blue-green rubber bodies hidden the girl's silhouette, like a monster popping out of the anime. Yanran tried to move, her body stretching slowly and stretched like rubber candy. She touched the fallen leaves on the ground, feeling the ice and moist, and the small snail crawled over her, bringing a slight sense. I won't be like slime, right? That's too unlucky. Her inner self was as innocent as a rain. She recalled her previous life. Her parents died early, she grew up with her own work, and had few friends. She always admired those reborn in the internet and easily built an empire. But now, she couldn't stand even when she stood up, as weak as a beech. Just as the panic was about to crush her, a crisp sound erupted in the brain, like a game interface popping out. System activation, the land construction gold finger has been set. Host, Yanran, slime girlish appearance. Capability, unlimited absorption of surrounding resources and automatically build structures. Initial territory, 10.5 meters. Yanran was stunned. Goldfinger. Isn't this a dream? She tried to stretch out a rubber-touching hand and touched a weed beside her. In an instant, a warm current flowed into the body, and the grass leaves turned into green light, swallowed and absorbed by her. Wow, this feel. The resource bar appears in the brain, wood +1, fiber +0.5. Her body was so excited that she trembled, and rippled on the surface of her body. The first pleasure point was so sudden. She stared at a small tree nearby, which was as thick as an arm and had dense branches. Yanran took a deep breath. Although slime didn't need to breathe, her touching hand was thrown out like a whip and swayed around the tree. The swallowing begins. The trees creaked slightly, and the wood was slightly dissolved, turning into pure energy and pouring into her body. Her body swelled a little, and the blue-green glue flashed with light. She sucked in the surrounding stones, leaves, and even rotten wooden heads one by one. The air was filled with a faint smell of wood and earth, and the forest seemed to be intimate under her control. Resource accumulation, 50 units of wood, 20 units of stone. Construction option unblocking, simple wooden house. Jian. Yanran said silently in her heart. The body rises from the ground, like activated mud, and resources gather like streams. Wooden strips are automatically spliced together, and stone blocks are piled up to form a base. In less than a minute, a simple wooden house rose from the ground, the walls were covered with rough trees, the roof was covered with moss, and a small open space at the door was used as a courtyard. The sun shines on the roof, reflecting a warm light. Yanran slid into the house, touching the wooden wall with her touching hands, making the touch feel realistic and reliable. This is so cool. From a beach of helpless rubber to the builder who controls the environment, this transformation caused an unprecedented sense of excitement in her heart. Panic retreated, replaced by a flame of confidence. She imagined the small rental house in her previous life, and now she could build a shelter with her hands. After the wooden house was completed, Yanran did not stop. She slid out of the house and explored the surroundings. The forest is flat and grass grows. Occasionally, a stream flows through it, and the water sounds crisp like a kettle. Her rubber body is light and can easily pass through the thorns, absorbing vines and gravel along the way. Resource flight speed growth, 120 units of wood, 80 units of stone, 30 units of grass fiber. Expand, she ordered the open space around the wooden house to begin to change. Extra wooden pavilions form a simple slug, stone blocks pile into huts, and even a small vegetable garden that sprouts automatically from the absorbed seeds. Green buds break out of the soil, bringing the moisture of the soil. In this process, the memories of the previous life came like a tide. Yanran paused for a moment, and her body slightly contracted. In the past, I was always alone, working until late at night, and there were no ones who talked. Those weekdays were so hard. She felt sad when she thought of the cats and dogs wandering on the streets, and her heart was heartbroken. In this world, I can't do that anymore. I want to build a kingdom, a safe home, to protect all the weak, including myself. This determination was as firm as a steel. From passive panic to active control, her heart quietly changed. Slime's body is no longer a curse, but a new life. The second pleasure point is to decline in exploration. After Yanran slid to a bush, she heard the shattered footsteps. A thin goblin emerged from the shadow of the tree, green skin, pointed ears, holding a curved tree branch as a weapon in his hand. Its eyes were sluggish and its body was covered with mud, and it looked hungry and alert. The goblin sniffed the air and his eyes closed at the newly built site. "Goo, food?" It growled. Its language was rough, like the dialect of the uncle in the country. Yanran instinctively retreated, but the system prompted flash, land attraction, primary. Weak monsters can be inspired to join. After her thoughts, her body emitted a soft blue light, as warm as a light. "Hey, little guy, don't be afraid. I'm not an enemy." Her voice was sent out from the rubber, soft and slim, with the girl's playfulness. The goblin was stunned. The branch fell to the ground, staring at her with a crooked head. "You, slime. Don't eat me." "Of course I won't eat it. There is a shelter here, there is something to eat." Yanran stretched out her touching hand and gently pushed a piece of fruit taken out of the storage room, the wild fruit she had just absorbed. The goblin watched for a moment, grabbed the fruit and chewed it, and the juice dripped on his chin. "It tastes delicious. Boss, are you the boss?" Its eyes lit up, and its language turned from vigilance to excitement, like a wandering Han who found a backer. Yanran smiled. Although she didn't have a mouth, her gel was moving out of fast waves. "Yes, I am the boss. Join me and build a home together." The goblin was like snatching garlic and knelt on the ground. "My name is Goo, now with the boss." At this moment, the first follower in the land. The warm current surged in Yanran's heart. From a lonely reincarnation to a leader with a partner, the joy of this growth is stronger than any magic. Goo clumsily helped her move the stone block, and the interaction between the two people, one slime and one goblin, was clumsy and warm. Goo's rough smile was in the camp, revealing Yanran's leading charm, not relying on strength, but the gentleness that protects the weak. The size of the building was initially taken. The wooden house was expanded into 3 cottages, with slabs lying around, making fires beside it. Smoke rose, and smudges scattered around the fragrance of roasted fruits. Yanran slid onto a wooden pavilion and looked down at her own land. As the sun sets, the forest is dyed with gold, everything seems perfect. But the clash was approaching quietly. Far away, deep in the forest, horse hoof sounds and human low words. "Cruise team, check the monsters in the border area." A rough man sounded, accompanied by the collision of metal armor. Yanran's heartbeat, if slime had a heartbeat, accelerated. Goo also froze. "Human. Abusive. Hide it." Yanran said softly, and with a flash of touch, the system activated the hidden mode. The vines around the camp spread automatically, covering the wooden houses like a part of nature. As she dripped into the bush, she melted into the ground, and her collar became transparent like water. The patrol sound was approaching, and the light of the torch was flashing, and the air was filled with the smell of iron and sweat. Yanran held her breath and flicked her mind. They can't find it. This is her home, the first step to protect. The horse's hooves sound far away, and the forest regains its tranquility. The sweetness floated up from the hidden side, and the surface of the glue was fixed with a flash of blue light. She looked at Gugu and patted her shoulder lightly. We will be stronger. Continue to build to welcome a bigger adventure. Her eyes were like stars, and she threw herself into the unknown deep forest. Terms, 1287. As night faded, the morning fog was scattered like a thin scent, and the air was filled with the fresh smell of dew and pine. Yanran slid down from the wooden trunk, and her body leaped lightly on the grass, making a slight snap sound. Gugu rubbed his eyes and crawled out of the hut, with the dew from last night still stained with the green skin. Boss, early. Has the human race gone? Gugu is scared. It whispered low, its sharp ears raised, and its sound was heard around it. Let's go, don't worry. Yanran responded softly, and patted Gugu's arm lightly, making the touch feel rough and warm. We have to reinforce it here. We can't be scared like this anymore. Her rubber glowed slightly, and the system interface opened in the brain. The resource still had 100 units of wood and 60 units of stone. Last night's surprise made her realize that the single pure wooden house was far away. The first step in growing up is not to build a family, but to keep the family. She took a deep breath of the wet air from the forest, and her heart spread like a vine. Come on, help me collect branches. Gugu, grab a stick as a tool, and clumsily pokes in the bush. Yanran stretched out her touching hands and absorbed the stones and vines around her. Resources are imported like streams. The system prompts to start. Building options unlock. Stone wood wall, defense plus 20%, spike trap, attack rate plus 30%. She silently recited the instructions, and her body turned around, like an activated whirlpool. The stone blocks are automatically stacked to form a wall foundation, the wood is raised into columns, and vines are scattered on it, forming a half-person high barrier. Spikes emerged from the ground, hidden in the grass, flashing with a cold light. The whole process was accompanied by the friction sound of wood and the collision of stones, and the fresh smell of resin was scattered in the air, which made the campsite turn from several loose houses to small villages with shapes and styles. Wow, boss, this wall is so hard. Gugu try. Gugu bumped into it, let out a slight slap, rubbed his brain and laughed. It hurts, but it's safe. Yanran couldn't help but laugh, and the cord was shaking. Yes, this is our home. Don't want to enter easily if anyone comes. The wall was built, the territory was expanded to 30 meters, and the system upgrade notification flashed. Attractiveness is improved. The inspiration rate of weak monsters plus 50%. Sure enough, before noon, a group of blue glue slipped from the forest, followed by a thin werewolf with spotted hair and eyes filled with long red light. The new slime, Yanran called it a little blue, approached the hair, and curious ripples appeared on the surface of the glue. You, leader. Its voice was soft and erect, like a bubble bursting. The werewolf growled and pawed his claws. It smells of food. Join. Don't fight. Yanran stretched out her touching hand and touched the small blue lightly, feeling the sticky and slippery warmth of the same kind. Welcome. There is shelter here and work. She turned to the werewolf, and said with a determined aphrodisiac, yes, don't fight inside. Let's be strong together. Gugu clapped excitedly, new brother. Come and build a house. The little blue slid into the garden to help water. The werewolf, called himself Gray Hair, digged the soil with his claws, and his sharp nails rolled over the soil, making a rustling sound. The preliminary team formed, 1 slime leader, 1 goblin, 1 slime, and 1 werewolf. Yanran looked at their busy figures, and the warmth gushed in her heart. From the reincarnation of a lone to the leader of a partner, this change made her feel confident. But the joy didn't last long. The resource warning came out, food preparation, low. It is expected to be consumed within 3 days. Although the business location is expanded, it faces scarce challenges. The wild fruits were not enough, their stomachs were roaring, and their gray hairy growled were filled with impatience. Boss, Gugu. Gugu said aggrievedly, grabbing the empty fruit basket. Yanran's rubber shrinks, and her brain flashes through her past lives. Supermarket shelves are empty and money bag numbers. She can't let her family repeat it. Solve the food. Build farmland. She ordered, pointing her finger to the open space. System response, agriculture model unblocked. Requires soil plus seeds. They act together. Xiaolan and Zhao Yanran absorbed the humus soil around them, dug out the gray hairs and scattered the seeds from the forest, wild malt and root penis. The spirit is injected with energy, the soil is rolling, and the green buds quickly break through the soil, accompanied by the moistening breath of the soil and a faint grass fragrance. Farm formation, a neat place surrounded by low sills, and the canals are directed from the stream, and the gurgling water sounds like the background music. It's so stable. Yanran announced, and everyone shouted. Gray hair licked her paws. Boss is smart. Gray hair listens to you. Through this challenge, Yanran grew up. From simple construction to resource management, she began to be like a real leader. Her heart was unique, simple and determined. Weakness is not forever, I can change. In the afternoon, Yanran decided to go deep into the forest to explore. The territory is stable, so you have to find more resources. You stay at home, I'll go explore the way. Don't run around. She stumbled, her body jumping and sliding into the forest. The trees are full of shadows, the sun spots fall, the feet fall, and the leaves are crispy, and the air is mixed with the fragrance of flowers and rotten smell. The deeper you go, the more you grow the trees, and the vines are like giant pythons. She absorbed mushrooms and moss along the way, and her resources rose slowly and she felt relaxed. Suddenly, a low roar broke the silence. A wild magic pig emerged from the bush. Its body shape is like a cow, its fangs are bright, its eyes are red, and the smell of soil and blood are coming to the surface. It was shaking, the ground shook, and its hooves slammed into dust. Invader, the pig roared, his words as rough as thunderbolt. Yanran instinctively retreated, but the brain flashed system, slime body quality, elastic absorption plus reverse. The panic turned into excitement, this was her first battle. The magic pig bumped into her body, and the fangs pierced into her collar. Yanran felt the rushing like a wave rushing in, the pain was short and dull, but her body swallowed energy like a sea of swelling, the glue swelled, and the blue light was magnificent. Come on. She whispered, and her heart was as unrelenting as fire, no longer be moved, I want to fight back. In an instant, the counter-revolution started. The glue is retracted, and the stored impulse force is like a spring bursting, flying the magic pig out. The pig body hit the tree and fucked it, and the tree's skin shattered and the soil flew. It climbed up, shook its head and panted, you monster. Yanran did not give her any chance, and she stretched her pig's legs and absorbed its strength. The glue penetrated into the wound, and the magic pig slammed, making a silence howl. Finally, it fell down and turned into a resource light and was swallowed by Yanran. Get Fang X2, Magic Essence plus 10. Fighting potential unlock, active knock killing mode. The refreshing victory made Yanran's rubber flicker. From the passiveness of avoiding patrol to the initiative of killing the demons, she felt the awakening of power. The smell of blood dissipated, and she continued to move forward and came to a secret wandering, the ancient stone arch covered with moss, and the runes shone invisibly. The air around is refreshing, carrying ancient magical scents, like the mellow fragrance of Chen Nian wine. Is this a spirit thing? Yanran touched the stone door with her hands, and her heart felt a desire. She had no way to change her fate in her previous life. Now, this power can allow her to build an empire and protect everything. I need more power. Desire like flames, igniting her ambitions. Along the way, a pair of green eyes looked at her. Lan Xian, a virgin, is surrounded by branches and leaves, and her long hair is like a willow leaf. She browsed and said, Invader. Slime is actually wise, to observe. The wind blew over, the leaves rustled, and her figure merged into the green shadow, and she had not yet appeared. On the way back, a sign of change appears. In the deep forest, trees are automatically unwind, branches and leaves are twisted like ghost hands, and the buzzing birds in the air are as deep as thunder. Yanran stopped, and the glue alerted to shrink. Not to do anything, something is changing. She speeded up and strengthened her mind. The land was still small, and the village was not small. It must be expanded, and stronger defense lines are built to welcome the storm. Slide back to the camping ground, and the sun shines. Gugu met, boss, we're back. The farmland is growing taller. The little blue and gray hair were covered with shiny eyes. Yanran pointed his head and slapped his hands. Everyone hears that the forest is strange. We will become stronger faster. Tomorrow, we will continue to build a bigger home. They were so nervous that the fire crackled, reflecting the faces. The night falls, and the buzzing birds are coming, looking at the deep forest with a bright light, unyielding in the blue light. Number of words, 1248. The morning fog was scattered, and the buzzing sounds deep in the forest were like hidden low words. The strangeness of last night made Yanran feel at ease all night. The body moved slightly beside the fire, and she slid out of the hut. The blue-green surface reflected the rising sun, like a lively lake. Get up. Today we stretch our territory and walk deeper. We can't always beside us, the sound of the buzzing sound is getting closer and closer, so we have to find a safer floor. Her voice was soft and slim, carrying the leader's aura. Gugu rubbed his eyes and climbed up from the haystack. The green skin was covered with dewdrops. Boss, morning. Extrude. Gugu is strong, move the stones. The little blue slid over. The glue touched Yanran lightly, making a gurgling welcome sound. The gray hair stretched out its waist, its claws digging the ground, and its hair rose in the morning wind. There are big beasts deep, which protects the gray hair. Their passion made Yanran feel warm inside. The lonely days of her previous life were like a remote shadow. Now, these gangs are her family. From a helpless slime to a relied leader, this transformation took root quietly. Okay, let's move together. Stay stable first, then thrust. She pointed her head and pointed her finger at the farmland. The green buds have grown to knee-high, and the soil is scattered with moist grass fragrance, but the water source is dependent on the stream, and there is always a sense of concern. Their division of labor is clear. Gugu and Xiaolan were responsible for patrolling the border, and gray hair helped Yanran explore the way. Yanran's head slid into the forest, and the rubber body jumped over the fallen leaves, making a fine crackling sound. The air is shining, trees are high and scattered into the clouds, branches and leaves form a green dome, and the sunlight falls like gold. Along the way, she stretched her touch to absorb vines and stone blocks, and the resource bars rose slowly, wood +30, stone +25. System prompt flash, local extension mode, detection suitable location. After half an hour, they came to an open forest open space. The ground was flat, with a purified spring in the center, and ancient oak trees were surrounded by rings, and the trees were erratic like guarding arms. The stream is gurgling and the sweet fragrance of wild flowers is only 100 meters away from the original site, and is hidden deep in the heart of the forest. This is it. Build a well and a warehouse. Yanran announced excitedly, and the colloid expanded in a circle. Gugu's eyes widened. Well? Gugu is dying of thirst. She silently recited the instructions and gathered resources. Tentacles penetrated the spring like whips, stones were automatically piled up to form the walls of the well, and wooden stakes were erected to support the winch. The process is accompanied by the gurgling of water and the collision of stones. The well water is crystal clear, reflecting the surrounding green shadows. Then came the warehouse, a spacious wood and stone structure with a moss-covered roof and reinforced iron vines at the door, reinforcing materials she absorbed from the ruins. Gugu excitedly piled wild fruits inside, and the gray fur dragged in the hunted rabbit. The smell of blood was mixed with the fragrance of new wood. Boss, this warehouse is big. It's big enough to hold a bunch of things. Gugu clapped his hands, and laughter echoed. Xiaolan slid into the well and watered the farm seeds with a grunt. With the water source and storage stabilized, the eyes of the followers lit up. Gugu was no longer hungry, and the gray-haired growl became satisfied. At this moment, a warm current of belonging surged in Yanran's heart. They were not tools, but partners. From the loneliness in her previous life to the prototype of her current home, she feels like she is no longer a monster, but a guardian. While expansion was in progress, a crisis emerged. At the edge of the clearing, a low roar shook the ground. From the shadow of the tree, a giant bear jumped out. It was as big as a hill, with brown fur like steel needles. Its eyes were red and flashing wildly. Its claws dug into the ground and kicked up dirt, and the air was filled with the smell and anger of the beast. It is a mid-level monster, the overlord of the forest, and it attacks the intruders. Get away! My territory! The bear roared like thunder, and the sound stirred up fallen leaves. Gugu was so frightened that he hugged his head. Big bear. Run! Gray Fur growled and assumed an attack posture, but his claws trembled slightly. Xiaolan shrank into a ball, and the colloid turned white. Yanran's heartbeat quickened, if she had a heart. Panic flashed, but the system responded. Taming potential, intermediate monsters can be summoned. Use charm plus absorb. She stood in front of everyone, the colloid emitting soft blue light, like a warm lantern. Wait! We are not enemies. I am the Lord, and we want to build a home here. Are you hungry? Join us. Her voice was soft and cute, and the surface of the colloid rippled slightly, like a little girl acting coquettishly. The giant bear was stunned, its paws stopped in midair, and it sniffed the air heavily. Slime. You little one, you dare to challenge me? It mocked, but did not attack immediately. Have fun and explode. Yanran seized the opportunity, stretched out her tentacles gently, and touched the bear's claws. Not an attack, but a sharing of energy. The essence of the fruit taken from the warehouse is injected, and the sweet fragrance fills the air. The giant bear felt the warmth, and hesitation flashed in his wild eyes. This power. Yanran continued, the forest is dangerous, and humans are expanding on the border. Let's protect it together and become stronger. The inner monologue is as short as fire, from a lonely weakling to a leader who tames beasts. This is where I belong. The giant bear struggled for a moment, finally lowered its head, and said in a rough voice, Humph, try it. Call me Iron Claw, and I will listen to you from now on. It lay prone on the ground, its huge body blocking the open space, like a living city wall. Gugu cheered, Brother Iron Claw. Territory is awesome. Gray Fur clapped his paws in agreement, and Little Blue slid over and nudged Bear Fur. The combat power increased, and the territory changed from a fragile village to a guarded fortress. Yanran's colloid shimmers with joy, and her heart turns like a tide. She is no longer afraid of being alone, she has a true belonging, and her determination to protect these partners is as steely as steel. Once tamed, they continued building. The iron claws helped push down the trees blocking the road, the roar shook the clearing, and sawdust flew into the air. The warehouse is filled with new resources, and the farmland next to the well is expanded and green. While Yanran was patrolling, a green shadow flashed out from behind the oak tree. Lan Xian appeared. Her slender figure was wrapped in a leaf-green robe, her long hair was flowing like wicker, her green eyes were like the spirit of the forest, and the air was filled with the faint fragrance of flowers. She held a bow and arrow, and her tone was as cold as a stream. Intruder. The slime actually built a nest in the holy land of elves. Leave, otherwise the arrows will be merciless. Her voice was alert, the tip of the arrow was pointed at Yanran, and the wind was filled with nervous tension. Gugu retreated, Sister Elf. Don't shoot. Iron Claw growled at the guard, but Yanran raised her tentacles to signal to stop. She took a step forward, the colloid deliberately vibrated with lovely ripples, and the blue light was as soft as the moon. Wait. I don't harm the forest. My name is Yanran, and I just want to build a safe home. Look, my men are all weak. We don't cut down trees, we only absorb discarded ones. Her tone was sincere, and her cute appearance was like a harmless little pet. Lan Xian frowned and loosened the arrow slightly. Slimes are smart. Rare. But the human kingdom is expanding its borders, burning forests to hunt animals, and the monsters are scattered. If you join forces to destroy it, the elves will not spare you. She revealed the secret. The kingdom's army is spearheaded by the Adventurers Guild, heroes are registered in the card system, greedy for resources, and the edge of the forest has become a battlefield. The buzzing sound is the harbinger, the chaos of the migration of monsters. Yanran's heart sank, as the law of the jungle and the strong that she heard about in her previous life was now being staged here. I understand. I was reincarnated just to protect the weak. If you don't believe me, come and see my territory. She invited, gently guiding her tentacles. Lan Xian hesitated, drew her bow and followed. When she came to the clearing, she saw gurgling wells, neat warehouses, green farmland, guarded by iron claws, and Gugu and the others were busy and harmonious. This is orderly. It's not like a monster's lair. Lan Xian was surprised, her green eyes softening a little. Gugu came up and said, Sister, come join us. The boss is great. Gray hair nodded, let's fight humans together. Little Blue Golu agreed. The interaction between the supporting characters is like a warm breeze, which promotes the budding of the alliance. But here comes the twist. Lan Xian shook her head, the elders of the clan have deep doubts. Slime is related to rumors of the undead, and we are afraid that you will bring darkness. Her tone was worried, and her green robe trembled slightly in the wind. Yanran did not flinch and took the initiative to show off. She slid to the edge of the farmland, injected energy into her tentacles, accelerated the growth of green buds, and produced crystal fruits with a fragrant aroma. Look, this is my way. Harmonious coexistence, not destruction. Sincerity is like sunshine. Lan Xian touches the fruit and feels the natural magic. You are different. Perhaps we can make an alliance. She took out a few shimmering green seeds from her arms, natural magic seeds, injected into the soil. The farmland instantly harvested, the wheat ears were golden, the roots were thick, flowers bloomed by the wells, and the air was filled with the fragrance of honey. Use these to stabilize your village. But prove yourself, or the alliance will be hopeless. Yanran nodded, her colloid shining with gratitude. Thank you, Lan Xian. I will do it. The inner transition deepened, from building a family in isolation to interethnic trust. This sense of belonging made her ambitions expand. The dream of an empire was just around the corner. Lan Xian left with a smile, her figure blending into the shadow of the trees. The forest is watching you. Be careful of kingdom patrols. The territory has now become a stable village, rows of houses, water wells, fully loaded warehouses, iron claw patrols, and rich farmland. Gugu and the others celebrated around the fire, laughter echoed, and the firelight illuminated Iron Claw's rough face. As night falls, Yanran slides up the oak tree branch and looks down at the brightly lit village. The buzzing sound was closer, faintly mixed with horse hooves. The threat to the kingdom is approaching, but her blue light is firm. We are ready. The greater adventure begins here. The wind blows and the leaves rustle, indicating that storms and opportunities are intertwined. Word count, 1263. The morning light fell like golden threads on the oak canopy, and the embers of the village fire were still smoking slightly, mixed with the sweet smell of roasted fruits last night. Yanran slid down from the branch, her colloidal body bouncing gently on the grass, the blue-green surface reflecting the shimmer of dewdrops. She took a tour. The farmland was full of green. Gugu was clumsily fetching water by the well. Iron Claw was lying on the door of the warehouse and taking a nap. His heavy breathing was like a bellows. Little Blue slid around and helped water the seeds, purring with satisfaction. Boss, morning. Sister Lanxin said she would come. Gugu has been waiting for a long time. Gugu was carrying a bucket, with water droplets splashing on his green skin, and his eyes were bright. Yanran nodded and patted Gugu's shoulder with her tentacles, feeling moist and warm. She will come. We have to be ready to prove our sincerity. There was a slight movement in her heart. In her previous life, she had always been a loner, but now she has allies to rely on. This trust made her think about a greater responsibility than simply protecting herself, to protect these partners and prevent them from making the same mistake of being weak again. The buzzing was louder last night, and there was a faint uneasiness deep in the forest, like the muffled thunder before a storm. Not long after, green light flashed in the shadow of the trees, and Lan Xian appeared. Her robes fluttered in the wind, and her green eyes scanned the village with a soft and scrutinizing look. Yanran, your territory is in better order than expected. The elders agreed to provide preliminary assistance, but you need to prove that you are harmless. Her tone was as clear as a stream, but mixed with a hint of vigilance. She held a flashing emerald in her hand, and the air was filled with the faint smell of plant essence, like a spring breeze blowing on her face. Yanran slid forward, and the colloid vibrated with welcome ripples. Lan Xian, thank you for coming. We are not a threat, I just want to build a safe place. Come and take a look at the farmland, your seeds make them grow so well. She led the way, and Gugu followed excitedly. Sister, look. The wheat is high. Iron Claw raised his head and gave a low growl as a signal. Gray fur sprang out from behind the bushes, and his claws paved the ground lightly, like a welcome ceremony. Lan Xian touches the farmland, and the green buds glow slightly under her fingertips, bearing more fruits. The power of nature flows here. Okay, you have potential. Come on, fuse. She pressed the gem onto Yanran's colloid, and warm energy poured in like a stream. The system interface lights up instantly. Natural magic module unlocked. Fusion territory gold finger, magic enhancement rate plus 100%. Yanran felt the inside of the colloid churning, blue-green mixed with green light, like lake water dyed with spring. Wow, this feeling, power is surging. She whispered excitedly, and her inner monologue was brief. It's no longer just about building a home, I have to use this power to protect everyone. Lan Xian smiled, a gift from the elf. Recite Vine Guard silently, and your territory will grow and defend. The pleasure is like a tide. As the voice fell, a low roar was heard from the village. In the tree forest, a group of forest wild animals emerged, three-headed wild wolf heads, followed by several thorny wild pigs, red eyes, overturned hair, dusty soil on the ground, and the fishy smell and roar of wild animals in the air. The buzzing chaos allowed them to move, mislead their territory, and directly stolen the warehouse. Invade. Protect the home. The iron claws rose and their claws shone, the gray hair roared on it, and Gugu grabbed the stick and shook it in front of the small blue. Yanran was not panicked, her body was bloated, and she silently recited the instructions. In an instant, the system and magic merged, vines on the ground exploded like a living snake, bursting out from the soil, green light surrounds the wood and stone walls, instantly generating a high-profile vine protection wall. The vine bars are as thick as arms, with sharp spikes of poisonous light, accompanied by creaking sounds and the breath of soil swelling. When the mad wolf hit, the vines automatically retracted, like a giant hand holding it. The wolf howled and slapped, and was thrown out and smashed and fucked by the trees. The thorn pigs rush, and the vines stretch out and retort on the wall, pierce into the beast body, absorbing essence and turning into green light to return to the ground. The whole process flows like a magic show. The golden fingers of technology make the magic exquisite, the wall automatically repairs the cracks, and the fresh vine fragrance and the iron lens smell of the beast blood are spread in the air. That's so strong. This is our fortress. Yanran's rubber body shone with blue-green light, and the joy of conquest surged in her heart. The wild beasts were swept and fled back to the forest. Gugu cried, "Big bull. The vines eat wolves." The iron claws slapped their claws and laughed, and said with a rough voice, "Haha, it's great. My claws are not moving." Lan Xian's eyes lit up, and the green robe is light, fused perfectly, your golden fingers can actually amplify the power of nature. Let's deepen the alliance. We provide more assistance to upgrade your village to a wooden and stone mixing fortress. She snatched her hands and the green light fell. Resources are automatically gathered, wood and stone intertwined, vines strengthened the wall foundation, houses are expanded and built into a solid fortress wall, tower building stands up, arrow holes hidden in the lookout, stone slabs in the central square, magic vine walls are lying around. The process accompanied by the rustling of stone wings and vines, the fortress rose from the ground, like a fortress in the forest, with sunlight surging on the stone wall, reflecting a serious light. The territory range is extended to 100 meters, and the system prompts, defense plus 50%, magical plus 30%. During the upgrade, Yanran took the initiative to ask for advice. Lanxin, teach me spiritual language. In this way, we can communicate more smoothly. Lanxin pointed at the head and injected knowledge into the stone. The sweet body is filled with an ancient musical sound in the brain, like the whisper of a wind, soft and beautiful. Thank you, ally. She tried in spirit, with a sound in her soft voice. Lan Xian smiled and said, you learn fast. From now on, we are partners. The spirit clan will send scouts to help, but remember, the shadow of the kingdom is approaching. At this moment, Yanran's heart turned, from the weak slime who protects herself to the leader who is responsible for her allies. She felt that there was more weight on her shoulders, and she was more sure. I will protect everyone and not let the forest sink. The inner self is ashamed as a vow, and the sense of responsibility spreads like a vine. The fortress was first established, and the laughter of the dedication was in the air. The new fruits are produced by Gugu, and the iron claws are gnawing at the pits, and the gray hair and small blues are chasing and playing. Lan Xian integrates into the interaction and teaches Gugu simple and eloquent songs. Gugu sings so well, which leads to laugh, Lala, friend in the forest. But his joy is broken by the shouts from afar. A rapid pace and monster roar came from the edge of the forest, help! You'll die goblins! The human voice was rough, with messy metal collisions and arrows breaking the wind. Yanran was alert and slid up the tower. There is an invasion. Iron claws, prepare. The crowd opened their wings. In the forest, a young adventurer knocked out, Yulin, with brown hair, broken leather armor, holding a sword, and chasing more than a dozen violent goblins behind him. Green monsters danced sticks and roared like wild dogs. Roll! You are such a human being. The leader goblin screamed. The sword light was panting, and the sword light was swept over, surrounded, and the mixed blood of sweat dripped on the ground, and the air was filled with the smell of iron and earth. Save him. Yanran ordered the vine wall to open the entrance passage from the vine. The iron claws growled out, their claws were like swords, their gray hair wings were surrounded, and their stone heads were squeezing. The little blue slid over and stuck to the goblin foot, pulling the glue to make them fall. Yanran took action, stretched his touch, fusion magic to absorb the goblin's stick, and turned it into a vine thorn to counterattack. The monster group scattered and fled into the forest. Junlin sat on the ground and gasped, thank you. Thank you. Are you, a monster camp? But did you save me? It slips brightly and closes, the glue shrinks into a cute spherical shape, with a soft blue light. Don't be afraid, we are territorial residents. My name is Yanran, here is the home. Are you okay? Her voice was soft and scented, which made Yanlin stunned. Master Slime. God, this world is crazy. My name is Yulin, the F-level bird from the Adventurers Guild. I missed the deep forest and got lost. He wiped his sweat, his eyes swept over the fortress, and he was alert in surprise. You're built like a town, not simple. The interaction was unfolding, and the water was poured on, drink. Human brother, are you joining? The iron claw hummed, don't come, boy. Yulin received the water, drank it gently, and relaxed his breath, Guizhou information. The kingdom border has been expanded, the army recruits explorers, and the card system register heroes, and you can lead the mission to save resources. But the forest is on the ground and monsters are scattered. You have to be careful, the scouts are approaching the edge, burning the forest to catch the zombies. He shared the map, taking out the Navy's sheepskin paper, marking the guild location and patrol routes from the zombie. I was here to explore resources, but I ended up falling. Thank you for help, I owe you a little. Yanran touches the map lightly and shows ambition in her brain. Although the territory is strong, the resources are limited. The guild has information and material resources, so it can be thorough. It's useful to hear. Can you help me register an adventure card? Get it as a partner, go to the guild, steal, and borrow something. Her words were playful, and her glass blinked her eyes. Lin widened her eyes, slime registered. There will be a guild of deformed medicine, which may be possible. But the risk is great, and the kingdom regards monsters as enemies. Gugu said, adventure. Boss is going to be a hero. Lan Xian appeared from the tower building, and her green eyes looked at Lin, human, is credible. Lin stood up and scattered, I owe my life, trust me. The decision was finalized, and the plot was expanded outward. Yanran felt excited, from the secret castle to the guild, this is the next step in growth. Protecting allies not only protects their families, but also takes the initiative to attack. Okay, we'll move tomorrow. Let's take a break first. The crowd was surrounded by fire, and Yulin gave a guild fun, laughed and his iron claws were roaring. The night is dark and the fire on the fortress is warm. But the turn and break out. At the lookout at the tower building, gray-haired growled, boss. Torch. Human scouts, come from the edge. Far away, there were dozens of fires in the forest, and the horses' hooves were scattered, accompanied by iron armor collisions and whispers, search for the monster's nest and burn it. The air was filled with smoke and tightness. The body of Yanran was tightened, and the blue light was determined, prepare for the fight. The vine wall is starting. The vines grew rustling, the fortress police were working hard, and everyone was rushing to the ground. The wind blew, the leaves were shaking, the crisis approached like a shadow, and she looked at the fire, her heart was burning like fire. Number of words, 1289. The firelight flashed like a ghost in the forest. The sound of horse hooves and iron armor collided like a thunderous rifle, scattering the human scouts' whispers, the monster nest is right in front, burn them. Yanran slid up the tower, and the rubber body slid into a blue-green spherical shape, and the blue light moved slightly in the night. Below, the iron claws growled and opened the frame, and the claws dipped the ground to slam the soil, the green skin turned white, gray hair and small blues shrank behind the vine wall, and the air was filled with a scent of sweat and the burnt smell of smoke. Lan Xian appeared in the green shadow, holding a bow and arrow in her hand, and her green eyes were flashing, they have a lot of people, and they are not good at fighting hard. Retreat? No, hide. Yanran whispered and silently recited the system instructions. The vine wall grew instantly, and the green strip spread like a living snake, covering the entire fortress, the leaves rubbed rustling and rolled into a dense forest. The magic module is activated, and the faint fragrance of grass and trees in the air covers the smell of the fire. The iron claws were diamond into the secret trough, and the sound of the gugu was rumbling, boss, magical skill. The scouts approached, the torches illuminated the vine shadows, and they searched in circles, and their boots trampled on the leaves and made crisp noises, but they won nothing. Do you die? Is the situation wrong? Let's go and continue patrolling the border. The leader scout cursed the spell, the horse team turned, and the sound of the hooves went far. The fortress was calm, and the crowd relaxed their voices. The iron claws slapped their claws and laughed, haha, I ran away. Yanran slid down from the tower, her body relaxed and her heart spread like a vine. In her previous life, she always hid in the corner to avoid her. Now, this hidden art has made her taste of taking the initiative to control her. They will come again. We can't just guard it, we can get a hit. The guild move, now it's beginning. She turned to the human youth, leaning against the stone wall, his handle tightly, his brown hair was blown by the wind, his eyes were mixed with vigilance and gratitude. Are you sure? You can dive into the edge at night, and the risk will double. Yulin rubbed his shoulders, and his words were rough and honest, like a street gangster. Okay. Information is a weapon, we need it. Yanran's body moved a fixed wave pattern, and the blue light reflected his face. Lan Xian clicked the head, took out the green stone from the verge, and pressed it on Yanran, faraway assistance. Fusion of the magic of shape transformation to hide your essence. Remember, the power of spirit protects you, but don't expose it. The warm energy flowed in, and the system prompts, deformation module unlocking, girlish shape, lasting for 24 hours. Yanran felt the inner part of the glue, the blue-green color was reshaped, like rubber candy, and made into a human form. After a while, she stood up, wrapped in a simple green skirt, with blue-green hair reaching her waist, her skin as white as a gel, her eyes were big and watery, and her face was as cute as a neighbor girl, with a cute smile. What's the matter? She turned around, her skirt was light, and the fragrance of the forest was faintly fragrant in the air. Yulin widened his eyes, and the sword fell to the ground a little. Is this magic? It looks like a little girl. Gugu rolled on his back, his eyes were bright, boss is getting more beautiful. Gugu wants to change too. Yuju snorted, don't be shivering, protect her. Yanran smiled, and his voice was as crisp as a bell, let's go, companion. Teach me the rules of humanity. They set out at night, Yulin walked along the way, passing through the forest, the moonlight spots fell, the feet fell, and the leaves rustled, and the wolf howled far away were hidden. On the way, Yulin said in a low voice, the guild is in a town near the border. When registering cards, you have to fill in your identity and measure your spirit. Monsters? They think they are treasures. You are a wandering girl and are easily intercepted. But when you take things, you have to be careful to guard them. His words are thorns, as if reminding, I saved you, but the guild is my tray, don't come. Yanran blinked her eyes to resolve his prejudice, I know you are afraid that I will be exposed and drag you into the water. But I am not a monster. I built a land to protect the weak, like you. Believe me once. Her voice was soft, with true sincerity, and her face was pure and pure under the moonlight. Wu Lin stepped and rubbed his back brain, the monster leader will also speak human words. Okay, I owe you my life to the end. During the interaction, his shoulders relaxed, and he was alert to turn into initial trust, like an old man holding a girl to silence. Lanxin's green light moves in the Yanran body, guarding it far away to avoid any magic waves and ejaculation. The surrounding towns are brightly lit and the wooden houses are lined with tangerines, and the air is filled with aroma of wine, barbecue and horse stew. The guild hall is extremely popular, adventurers are noisy, wine glasses collide, and the walls are full of mission orders, kill the forest pig, earn 50 silvers, explore the edge of the country, and teams are required. Yen Lin pushed the door open and said, follow me, I'll take you to register. After the counter, a fat uncle squinted his eyes and looked at Yanran, new? Fill in the form and test the spirit. Yanran painted the gourd in the same way, and put it in, Yenner, a wandering girl, no home to learn, and her pen was crooked and cute. The uncle unleashed the crystal ball, touch, test level. She touched lightly, Lanxin's magic quietly made it, and the crystal green light, E-level, suitable for novices. I've passed it. The card is for you, welcome to join. A copper card slides out, engraved with her name, with a map and mission interface on the back. Yanran's heart beat faster. If there is a heartbeat, hold the card tightly and feels that the door of the information is opened. It's so cool. Feng Lin said in a low voice, there is a resource map in the back hall, and the magic scroll is locked in the cabinet. He is active when guarding the shift. They slipped into the side corridor, the light shook, and the fragrance of paper ink was swaying. Yanran silently recited the change and extension, her rubber fingers stretched like a touch, and pried open the locking cabinet. The system's golden fingers made it soundless. Inside is a treasure, a detailed resource map, marked forest mines, secret water sources, several magic scrolls, flash blue light, and record, fireball art, and protective cover. She swept the sky, the map was opened in the brain, the mine was positioned like a light tower, and the coil energy flowed into the system, unblocking the new module. Controlling pleasure is like a current passing away. From being indifferent to being passive to taking the information, she was as simple as fire. This is power. Don't wait for the enemy to come, I will set the rules. Yulin guarded the door, and sweat dripped. Hurry up. Success. Yanran blinked and smiled. It's done. Thank you, brother. He was stunned, with a red face. Don't call me brother, go. The dive was smooth, they slipped out of the guild, and the night was refreshing and refreshing. On the way back, Yulin came to the water tank. You are not like monsters. How did the tractor help the gang? In the guild, humans are weak, and they are always cannon fodder by the kingdom. Yanran took it, drank it gently, and slapped it into her throat. Like you, trust each other. Come and see, the truth will convince you. Her words resolved the final prejudice, and he pointed. Maybe, try. Trust sprouts like seeds, and the relationship deepened into a preliminary partner. At daybreak they slid back to the fort. Lon Xian came forward and looked at it with green eyes. No exposure, okay. What's the use of information? Yanran unfolded the map and said excitedly, here. There are iron ore veins on the east side of the forest. We build a mine to attract labor monsters. The system is activated and resources are gathered. Positioning is obtained from the map, scroll magic enhancement tools. The colloid reshaped into the form of a girl and supervised the construction. The iron claws dug through the soil, and the claws were like shovels. Gray fur transported stones. Gugu and Xiaolan pushed the mine cart. The roaring sound was accompanied by flying soil and metal knocking, and the air was filled with the smell of rust and sweat. The mine takes shape, surrounded by deep trenches, supported by wooden frames, protected by magic scrolls, and flashing blue light blocks wild beasts. The first batch of iron ore comes out of the furnace, and the system prompts, mining module unlocked, resource output plus 200%. Attractiveness, labor monster plus 70%. Sure enough, word of the fragrant gulls in the mine spread, and a group of goblin monsters came upon hearing the news, short green skins, round eyes, holding small pickaxes. The leader screamed, smell the smell of minerals. Join mining. He smiled sweetly, welcome. The wages are food and shelter. The goblins nodded excitedly, and the pickaxes jingled, and the influx of labor made the territory ablaze. Gugu taught them to sing work songs, and Iron Claw supervised them. There were many mining sheds around the fortress, and smoke and dust curled up. Looking down sweetly, the girl's face shone with satisfaction. From a pool of slime to a strategically penetrated lord, this growth was as solid as a vein of minerals. Intelligence changes everything, we are no longer hungry and cold. With a quiet change in her heart, she began to plan for greater expansion. But there's a twist. Yanlin brought back the task list from the guild with a solemn expression. Yenner, the guild's new mission, explore the cemetery of the undead, deep in the border. The bounty is high, but it's dangerous. There are rumors that the power of the curse has awakened and the skeletons have been resurrected. Do you want to form a team? I can't handle it alone. He handed over the order. The paper turned yellow, and the ink marked the location of the cemetery, giving off a faint cold air. Yanran took it, and the main plot flashed in her mind. The undead General Jiming was waiting for her to be resurrected. Opportunity and conflict intertwined. If the guild knew her identity, war would begin. Group. But be careful, I have a secret. She blinked, her blue eyes firm. Yanlin nodded, I believe you. Let's leave tomorrow. In the bustling territory, the sound of mining pickaxes continued, and the laughter of goblins echoed. But in the forest on the east side, there was a faint sound of bones rubbing against each other, and dark power followed them like a shadow. Yanran looked towards the cemetery, her hair was blown by the wind, and she had a premonition that a storm was coming. Word count, 1276. The moonlight fell like silver frost on the edge of the mine, the jingling of pickaxes echoed, the goblins hummed tuneless work songs, and the air was mixed with the moist smell of rust and earth. Yanran stood on the tower, her long blue-green hair in the shape of a girl fluttering in the night wind. She held the task sheet tightly, and the yellowed edges of the paper curled slightly. Yanlin leaned against the wall, his sword scabbard tapping lightly on the stone slab, his brown hair ruffled by the wind, his eyes flashing with excitement and vigilance. Leaving early tomorrow morning? The cemetery is deep in Donglin, the road is dangerous, and the curse may be really evil. He whispered, his tone was like an old man trying to attract new people. Yanran nodded, her blue eyes reflecting the firelight. Let's go. The guild mission is just a cover. I have a feeling that there is something I need there. Iron Claw is guarding the house, Gugu, don't run around. She turned around and warned Gugu, who poked his head out of the mine shed, his green skin covered with dust. Boss, be careful. Bring some fruit for the ghosts to eat. Iron Claw lowered his head. She roared and slapped her paws on the ground. Humph, protect the territory. When you come back, the mine must be doubled. Lan Xian appeared from the green shadow, her green robe trembling slightly, holding a gem in her hand. I will follow you from a distance. The curse of the undead is cold, but the elf magic can purify it. Be careful, Yanran. Her voice was as clear as a stream, and her blue eyes were full of concern. Yanran smiled and touched her hand, even though it was in the form of a girl, the familiar warmth made her feel at ease. Thank you, allies. With you, I am not afraid. There was a slight movement in her heart. She was reincarnated from being alone to having support. This belonging made her ambition grow like a vine. They set out just after dawn, with mist wrapping around the tree trunks like a veil. Yanran put on Yanlin's old cloak and disguised herself as a thin girl. She stepped lightly on the fallen leaves, making a soft rustling sound. Yanlin led the way, holding a torch. The flames flickered and illuminated the path. The air became cooler, mixed with the smell of decaying earth and the faint sound of bones rubbing in the distance. Information from the guild says that the cemetery is the site of an ancient battlefield, where the bones of the kingdom's ancestors are buried. Recently, the magic power has been leaked, and the skeletons are moving around. F-level missions, the bounty is low, but the cards can be upgraded. He said as he walked, holding the hilt of the sword tightly, as if to embolden himself. The deeper the forest, the sunlight spots turn into shadows, the trees twist like ghost hands, the ground is covered with pieces of dry bones, and it is crispy when you step on it. Yanran's heart beats faster, and the girl's skin had goose bumps. The system made her simulate human senses, which really looked like a street in her previous life. Length, something is staring at us. She whispered, her blue eyes slapped around her. The sword was drawn and the sword was unsheathed half an inch. Well, the curse breath. It's separate. They came to the entrance of the cemetery, a collapsed stone arch, covered with vines and dust. Behind the door was a group of pits. The fog was rising, the cold musty smell in the air and the dryness of bone meal, like the breath of the earth turning on. As they entered the tomb, the torch stretched the light and shadow, and their paces were like their heartbeats. Suddenly, a low sound of skeleton rose up in the darkness. Dozens of cursed skeletons, empty eyes were slim and green fire, holding a rock in his hand, and the friction between the friction made a harsh creaking. The head is a tall skull, with spots on the skeleton, and the sternum is full of runes, and the green flames are like ghost eyes. Invader, soul. It growled lowly, its sound as if it was winding over the tomb, carrying ancient resentment. The skulls came, the slashed light, the ground trembled and bone chips were scattered, and the air was filled with the chill of death. Zelene shouted, back back. They are not afraid of chopping. He flashed his sword and cut off a skeleton arm. His bones shattered and fell to the ground, but his limbs crawled back and reconnected. Afraid that the tide came, Yanran instinctively subsided. She always escaped conflicts in her previous life, but now, the system prompts flash, death spirit energy detection, absorbable. Fusion rate is 80%. Don't run. She growled, her heart was as white as fire. I'm not a weak person anymore. This is an opportunity. The girl's condition disintegrated and reshaped into Slime's body, and her blue-green body jumped in front of Fenglin. You protect my back, I'll suck it. The battle explodes. The climax is cool like the current drain. The first wave of skulls collided, and the snail pierced into the glue body, and the green curse rushed in like ice bulges. The pain made the Yanran's glue tremble and blurred. But Slime's essence starts, elastic absorption. Her body was like a sea bulge, swallowing the energy of the blade and skeleton, and the green flame turned into blue-green ripples. Come on. She whispered, stretched her hand and stretched out her skeleton joints, and the sound of the crack was endless. The wings on her side were killed, and sweat dripped. You monster, are too fierce. In a panic, she faced the phantom pain of the green flames, and her brain flashed through the cold of the lonely night in her previous life, no longer. The fusion begins, the power of the dead soul is intertwined with slime. Her rubber body is flashing in dark blue light, and it regenerates automatically when it breaks, and its thorny nature is as undead. The skeleton slashed in, and she flew back and attacked the attacker, and the skeleton smashed the wall and shattered it, and the pleasure was like a wave. No enemy, this is growth. Her heart turned quietly, from a timid adventurer to a warrior who merged with double powers. She felt that the weight of a military leader was added to her shoulders. On the tall skull, the runes burst into green flames, the tomb passages were stormy, and the bone chips were like rain. Yanran's plastic body was burned and the edges were charred, but the immortal rebirth made her hold and touched her skull sternum. Absorb. System flash, dead spirit skill unlocking, immortal resurrection, army command. Energy core acquisition. The green flames swept into her body, and her head skeleton collapsed into light spots. The core appears, a dark blue bone bead that carries military runes. Swallowed, and the torrent of the story exploded in the brain. The ancient war would be aware of the will of the army, the deceased spirits fell asleep, and the great force was to command the 1,000 troops. Resurrection, she murmured, and the energy of the bone bead exploded. The cemetery was quake, and the fragments of the skeleton gathered and reshaped into tall skeleton warriors, Jiming, bone armor spots, hollow eyes, and red flames, holding a giant sword in his hand, standing like an iron tower. My lord. Jiming listened to his life. His voice was as low as a war drum, carrying the resoluteness of a military man. In an instant, the system upgrade, the army command unblocked. Initial team, 50 skeleton soldiers. The surrounding broken bones were automatically assembled, dozens of skeletons climbed up, the teams were in a row, and the sword shields were scattered, and the sound of the army was moving forward. Yanran's collar was full of joy, and her inner energy was changing. From a single adventurer to a leader of the commanding army, this power made her ambitions expand. Empire dream, it's approaching. Jiming, report the information. She ordered, her voice was so cute. Jiming knelt on his knees, pointing the map phantom. My lord, the kingdom's border troops have explored the cemetery, and the detective team is trapped in Donglin. The dead spirits can be secretly integrated into the ground to prevent the territory. The war of the past, ambush, raid, and fearlessness. His words are like military orders, revealing the weaknesses of the kingdom. Scouts are lightly dressed, fearing darkness. Yuanlin widened his eyes and the sword lowered. Have you resurrected the army? It's crazy, but awesome. Yanran pointed, partner, join us. The army will protect you. He hesitated for a moment and held the sword. Okay, I owe you what I owe you, help you to the end. But the curse is flooded, the green flames surround the army, the skeleton moves stiffly, and the eyes are dull. Yanran's body hurts. No, it's a curse. Lon Exion's green light was activated from a distance, and the stone energy poured into the cemetery like a stream. The fragrance of flowers was purified in the air, the green flames disappeared, and the skeleton swelled up the blue light. The power of spirit washes away the darkness. Lon Exion's voice sounded in her brain, as gentle as the wind. Thank you, Lon Exion. Yanran responded. The army regained its vitality. Jiming stood up. The army is here, my lord. Returning to the land, the night was already dark. The fortress lights came and they slid into the mine. Gugu rushed forward. Boss. Are you back with a ghost? The Iron Claws growled. Military group. The territory is about to change military operations. Yanran ordered. Jiming, integrate into everyone. Build underground military operations, and train secretly. The system is integrated with magic and resource gathering. Dig tunnels under the mine, build stones and build houses, vines seal, and magic scrolls are built into shapes and boundaries. The process is accompanied by sounds of birds and skeletons, and the fresh and iron smell of mixed soil in the air. The war camps are formed, wide underground hall, skeleton trains are trained, and the collision of shields is like a war song. The goblins are curious and watch and teach them the military to celebrate and smile and take the ball seriously. The power of the land was rising. Jiming patrols, and the red flame eyes swept over. The defense network has just begun to be established, my master. Yanran looked down, and the glue reshaped the girl's shape, and her heart was satisfied. The spirit of the dead is not a problem, but a shield. From building a weak family to building a military empire, this transformation made her as confident as a steel. Turning and breaking out. At dawn, Jiming warned, Inspector. Scout Wang Guo discovered that the cemetery was moving, and the team of 10 people approached the east mining. Far away, torches in the forest were flashing, horse hooves were fast, and the iron armor collided like thunder. The leader scout shouted, Monsters! Burn them, report the kingdom. The arrow broke through and shot towards the mine, and the goblins screamed and fled. Yulin pulled out the sword. Come on. Yanran, order. She was afraid of being flashed, but Yanran's blue eyes were calm, and her heart was filled with war. First point, win. She climbed to the tower and shouted, Jiming, the front storm is storm. The wings of the iron claws, the vines are blocking the road. Gugu, the stone rain. The first time the index was like a flash. The red flames of Jiming were flourishing, and the army was launched from the underground soldiers. Kala walked like a tide, giant swords danced on horse legs, and the scout called Luoma. The iron claws growled and pulled the claws into the leather armor, the gray hair surrounded the back path, and the wolf howled trembled. Yanran silently recited the vines to guard them, and the green wall exploded and the arrows were hit. Gugu and the little blue stones hit the helmet. The light of the slide is bright, protecting the goblin. Come on. Lanshin's green light helps, purifying the poison of arrows. The conflict was short and intense. The air was filled with blood, smoke and bone shattering. Scouts were shattered, and they fled, leaving behind a ground to break the sword and report. After the victory, the army team formed, and Jiming replied, the whole army is in ruins, and the captive too are captured. The story, the main force of the kingdom will arrive in 3 days. Yanran slid down, her body flashed with blue light, and touched Jiming's bone arm, full well. In the first battle, we won. Yulin panted and laughed, you point to a natural army. The land, no, the empire is about to rise. Gugu shouted, the goblin clapped his hands, and the iron claws patted her shoulder, boss, awesome. The heart was warm, from the face of fear to the victory, this growth was like a military flag flying. She looked at Donglin, and the shadow of the king was approaching, but the blue eyes were filled with an unrivaled light. Prepare for the next battle. Empire, expand from here. The wind blew across the mine, and the sound rose again, indicating a greater storm. The morning light covers the mine like a thin fog, the humming of the goblins in the jingle, and the smell of the newly dug iron mine and the sweet fragrance of the roasted fruits are filled with the air. Yanran slid down from the tower, and the girl's blue-green hair was light. She patted Jiming's bone arms, and the touch felt cold and hard. The first battle was won, but the main force arrived in 3 days. Jiming led the army to patrol the East Lin, digging trenches and hiding and ambushing. Iron Claws, you are carrying a group of beasts to guard the edge of the mine. Her voice was crisp and majestic, like a small army was sending orders. Jiming's red flame eyes were slim and his bones were given a gift. As for your order, my lord. The dead spirit is not afraid of day and night, and the war will be like the net of the god of death. Gugu excitedly slapped his stick. Gugu is up. Stone heads hit people. Guanlin leaned against the stone wall, wiped the blade, and his brown hair was blown by the wind. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It's good to open the head. But the kingdom army has crossbowmen and magicians, and they are not enough to rely on ambushing. Add human warfare, encourage the enemy to chase deeper, and the side wings are slammed. He approached and came over a stone slab with map marks on it, but the ink was not dry yet. Yanran blinked her blue eyes and took the stone slab, which felt rough to the touch like his character. Thank you, Yanlin. Your information saved us a lot. She came closer and lightly touched his arm with her shoulder. Her soft smile relieved her fatigue after the war. Yanlin was stunned for a moment, rubbed the back of his head, and said in a rough but warm tone, don't be rude. I've seen too many fights between monsters in the guild. Your army has rules, but lacks flexibility. Join the defense, and I'll teach Jiming the weaknesses of the crossbow. During the interaction, his eyes changed from vigilance to tacit understanding of partners, like an old brother leading a newcomer. Iron Claw growled in agreement. Human boy, you have a moment. Lan Xian appeared from the green shadow, her green robe trembling slightly, and her green eyes swept over everyone. The elf scouts have been deployed, and the alliance is stable. But the dark undead need to be balanced, otherwise they will devour nature. She nodded to Yanlin, acknowledging the joining of humans for the first time. Defense upgrades are in full swing. Yanran silently chants the system, integrating scroll magic. Resources are gathered, iron ore in the mine is automatically smelted into steel bars, and stones are piled up to build high walls. Jiming commanded the army to dig trenches, the skeleton shovels were flying, and the soil was rolling up and raising dust mist. The goblins were transporting rocks and pushing carts, and the roar was accompanied by the smell of sweat and rust. Orchid is injected with the power of nature, vines grow from the edge of the trench, green strips wrap around steel thorns, forming a living trap, and the air is filled with the fragrance of fresh grass. Yanlin guided the flank. Build a fake camp on the east side of the mine to lure the enemy into taking the bait, and hide the bow. Although there were no arrows, the skeletons were throwing stones like rain. The territory transformed from a fortress into a fortress. High walls were erected, towers were added with magic barriers, underground barracks were expanded into arsenals, and a magic tower base was reserved in the center of the square. Yanran looked down, feeling proud in her heart. From a pool of slimes to a military genius, this territory expanded as much as her ambition. The first wave of scouts came quickly. In the afternoon, torches flashed by the forest, and more than a dozen mounted scouts rushed towards them, wearing light leather armor and holding long bows. The leading knight shouted, "The monster's lair! Shoot!" The arrows shot through the wind like rain, and shot toward the fake camp. Yanran whispered in the tower, luring the enemy. The red flames of Jiming were in full bloom, and the legions were hiding and motionless. The scout took the bait, the horse's hooves stepped into the trench, vines burst out and wrapped around the horse's legs, green thorns pierced the flesh, and the knight screamed and fell off his horse. The flanking attack was activated, the iron claws roared and pounced, the claws tore the horse's belly, the smell of blood hit the nose, the gray-furred wolves surrounded them, their howls were shocking. Yanlin's sword flashed, protecting the goblin archers. They made simple catapults from iron ore, and the stones fell like meteorites, cracking their helmets. The skeleton army sprang up from the trench, marching like a tide, with giant swords sweeping across, and their skeletal arms fearless from the rain of arrows. The leading knight drew his sword to fight back, but was entangled by Yanran's tentacles, the extended gel in the form of a girl, and the blue-green energy absorbed his talisman, rendering the magic arrow ineffective. "Surrender," she shouted softly, her blue eyes cold. The scouts were defeated, abandoned the broken sword and the intelligence bag and fled. The cool points come like a wave. Defeat 3 waves of squads in a row, use Yanran tactics and undead fearlessness in each battle, and annex nearby resource points, small mines and wild fruit forests near the forest. The system prompts a flash: territorial expansion, territory plus 50%, resource points annexed successfully. The goblin cheered, and Gugu waved his stick, boss genius. Humans run like rabbits. Jiming reported, Captive 5, Intelligence, the main force of the kingdom will be assembled in 2 days. He smiled sweetly, and the colloid trembled in the girl's body with joy. Well done. Expand the east mine and build a sentry tower. The military genius was fully revealed. She commanded like an arm and used her fingers, and everyone looked at her with admiration. Yanran patted her shoulder. You little girl, you are like a devil on the battlefield. Friendship? Okay, I will protect you from now on. His tone was relaxed, deepening the bond from life-saving to side-by-side. But after the victory, Yanran went up to the tower alone, her girlish face reflected in the sunset, and her heart surged like a tide. In her past life, she envied the protagonist of the online novel's cheerfulness. Now, the price of this power emerged. The green flames of the undead occasionally shot up, burning the surrounding vegetation, and a cold, musty smell lingered in the air. Lon Exion's warning echoed in her mind. Is power really free? Darkness devours nature. If the empire I built destroys the forest, what's the point? The inner monologue is short but profound. From the excitement of pure conquest to the transformation of reflection and balance, she is determined not to let ambition blind her original intention. As night fell, Lon Exion appeared on the top of the tower, her green robe fluttering in the wind. Yanran, your legion is powerful, but the curse of the undead is like poison ivy. If it spreads, it will destroy the foundation. The elves can expand the alliance and provide a purification array, but you need to promise, balance darkness and nature. Her green eyes were deep, like the spirit of the forest examining them. Yanran pointed her head, her blue eyes determined. I understand. In the past, I just wanted to protect myself. Now with you and the army, I can't let my strength destroy everything. Expand the alliance, send elite craftsmen to teach me how to integrate magic. The empire is not conquest, but symbiosis. She stretched out her hand and touched Lon Exion's fingertips, warm and as if she was sworn. Lon Exion smiled, and the green light fell. Okay. Tomorrow, the clan's seniors and elders will come. I will convince you of your growth. During the discussion, interaction was like a warm wind, and the alliance was promoted from initial to deepening. Yanran's heart turned like a steel. The strength was priced. She chose balance and protected the weak not only in the territory, but the entire forest. The next day, Yulin returned to the guild and pretended to be an upgraded adventurer to get more information. He slipped into the back hall. The light was shining, the paper was fragrant, and the fragrance of paper was snatched open the information cabinet, the kingdom military power map, the main force of 500 soldiers, the 100 magicians, the plan for burning forests in the border area. There was also the magic blue map, the design of the fusion element tower. On the way back, he was discovered by guards. The sword light flashed and chased the arrow, and sweat dripped. Yen, hold it. This tower blue map can build a magic tower, and double the defense. Yanran took it, and the Xingling silent contemplation system fuses the power of the 3 parties, immortality, natural vines, and human elements. Resource gathering, mineral melting tower foundation, vines surround the tower body, the coils inject fire elements, and the Ximing skeleton reinforces the inner wall. Construction is like a magic show. The tower body rises to the ground, the green-blue light intertwines, the crystal swells at the top, and the current buzzes and the fragrance of flowers in the air. System prompt, magic tower unlock, fusion defense plus 80%, fire detection plus 100%. The tower is formed, and it is beautifully climbed up, and the view is open, overlooking the extended version of the picture. There are many east mines, whistle towers, and fortresses are like iron barrels, turning around like thunder. The magic tower crystal flash warning police. Jiming returned the report from Donglin Ji, and the bones ran to the trench. My lord, the kingdom has officially invaded. The great army is invading, the magician is headed by the head, and the sea of burning forests and fires approaches the edge. The scouts have gathered and arrived in 2 days. Far away, the smoke slammed around the forest, horse hooves are like thunder, torches are like gangs, and the burnt wood is smelling in the air. Wu Lin pulled out the sword. It's really coming. The climax battle, ready? Gugu's trembling and determined. Gugu is not afraid. Lan Xian was lush and bright. The elite support army is coming. Yanran stood at the top of the tower, her wind blew her hair, and her blue eyes were like stars. The entire army is ready to fight. This is our home, keep it. Her heart was determined as fire. The power of balance will face the storm. The tower light was moving, the army was marching, and the winds passed through the forest, indicating that the bloody battle was about to rise. Number of words, 1268. The smoke came from Donglin like a yellow dragon, and the sound of horse hooves shook the sky and the impact of armor collisions and war drums. Yanran stood at the top of the magic tower, her blue eyes locked on the horizon, her blue-green hair, and her skirt was filled with a key. The crystal swaying blue light on the tower body reflects the busyness of the fortress below. Jiming led the skeleton army to form a skeleton. The skeleton was roaring, the iron claws roared and pointed at the group of beasts, and the gray-haired wolf howled. The goblins pushed the mine to supplement it, and shouted with a stick, "Hurry! Humans are coming to smash the house." The scorched earth smelled and sweaty in the air. Lan Xian's green robe was floating on the base of the tower, her green eyes were solemn. First 500 soldiers, then follow the magician. The torch was laid, so the defense line was not in trouble. Yulin held the sword and went up to the tower, with his brown hair and sweaty. Yen Yi, I'll sneak into their camp and burn grass. Give me green light to protect me. His words were rapid, like a gangster on the street fighting for his life. Yanran pointed her head and touched his shoulder. The girl's faced hands were as hot as a rubber. Be careful, brother. When we come back, let's work together. Her heart was tight. She always hid in the security area in her previous life and watched the heat. Now, this battle is like a fire burning eyebrows. From defense to attack, she has to take that step. System interface flash, war mode, trap setting is broken. Death Soul Hood plus Vines closure. Jiming, the night flies plan to start. Let them hit the trench first, exhaust their energy. Lan Xian, call the army. She ordered, and her voice was crisp and iron-like. Jiming's red flame eyes lit up, and his bones slammed his fingers. As for orders, my lord. The army is trapped in the war trenches, like the god of death waiting to be developed. The crowd scattered, the fortress is like a living machine running, and the current and vines rustled in the air, indicating that the bloody battle is about to rise. The invasion is like a tide. The kingdom pioneered the iron gallop out of the forest, and the flag was the key to the flag. The leaders shouted, the demon's nest is burned. The kingdom is shining. The torch was pulled out, the burning forest flames scattered, and the hot waves swelled the surface and the bitter taste of burnt wood. The rider rushed to the east mine, and his horse's hooves stepped into the edge of the war trench. The vines burst out like green whip, and the horse's legs pierced into the flesh and blood. The rider called the fallen horse, and the smell of blood spread in an instant. The magician sang in the back row, and the fireballs came like stones, exploded and flew open the soil, and the stones shattered and sounded endlessly. But the magic tower was bright and bright, the anti-bulge protective cover was opened, and the fireball popped back and burned his own line, clamoring everywhere. Don't die, monsters have magic towers. The magician led the spell and spells, danced with his robe and sleeves to summon the wind blade, and the air tore and cried. In the midst of the melee, an internal crisis broke out. A group of newly joined goblin laborers suddenly became restless, and the leader of the goblins screamed, "Humans are strong. The boss is a slime monster, we surrender in exchange for bounty." They swung their pickaxes at the warehouse, Gugu blocked it, and waved their sticks, "Traitor. The boss has been good to us, are you ungrateful?" Iron Claw roared and pounced on one, holding down one with his claws. Gray-haired wolves surrounded him, their hair standing on end and growling. In the chaos, the clanking of pickaxes and shouts echoed, and the goblin's eyes were red, as if driven by fear. Yanran jumped from the top of the tower, the colloid trembled in the girl's body, and her blue eyes swept across the rebellion. "Stop." She slipped into the crowd, stretched out her tentacles gently, touched the green skin of the leading goblin, and injected warm energy, the fusion of natural magic to resolve the panic. "You are afraid of death, I understand. In my previous life, I was also weak and hid in a corner. But this is home, not a prison. Join me and we will be strong together without having to kneel down and lick humans." Her voice was soft and cute but powerful, like an elder sister persuading her younger brother, and the blue light illuminated their eyes like a lantern. The leading goblin was stunned, dropped his pickaxe, and said tremblingly, "Boss, you won't kill us?" She shook her head, and the girl smiled, "Kill? That's a human trick. I built an empire to protect the weak. Look, Jiming's army listens to me, Lan Xian's elves believe in me. You mine and build a family, and the bounty will be divided between you. Believe me once." Gugu came up and patted the goblin on the shoulder. "Yes." Gugu was also afraid, but now he's not afraid anymore. Iron Claw snorted and loosened his claws. "Huh, listen to boss." The rebellion subsided, and the goblins lowered their heads. "Boss, we were wrong. Keep digging." At this moment, a warm current surged in Yanran's heart. From a passive lord to a leader who resolves crises, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, and her leadership took root like a vine. "Okay, everyone unite. The battle begins." She turned around and shouted. Everyone's eyes turned from doubt to admiration. The panic in the air dissipated and was replaced by the passion of unity. As night falls, the tide of the battle reverses. Yanran recited the night attack order silently, and the red flames flashed, and the legions burst out from the trenches, rushing towards the enemy camp like a ghostly tide. The bones clicked together, the giant sword was swung to cut off the horses and armor, the cavalry screamed repeatedly, and the blood and flesh splattered with the smell of rust. The excitement is like an electric current running through the body. Yanran comes to the front line in person, the colloid reshapes the extended tentacles, absorbs the talisman energy of the fallen knight, and the blue-green light shines. "Attack. If we can't defend anymore, we'll fight back." She growled, her heart transforming from defensive timidity to offensive courage, like a prairie fire. In her previous life, she always gave in. Now, at this moment, she took the initiative to tear apart the enemy formation, wrapped her tentacles around the magician leader, and devoured his fireball scroll. Energy surged in, and the system flashed wildly. Skill absorption, fireball unlocked, fused with undead immortality, creating spectral flame explosion. Self-improvement, command efficiency plus 50%. The leader glared, "Monster. You." Before he could finish his words, Yanran released the flames, green and blue fireballs exploded, burning the main force of the enemy army. The tongues of flames engulfed the cavalry. They screamed like ghosts, and the air was filled with the bitter taste of burnt flesh. The legion charged fearlessly, its skeletons shattered and regenerated, sweeping through thousands of troops, annihilating 300 main forces, and the rest fled. Assistance is timely. The green light of the orchid bloomed, singing an ancient song, "Spirit of the forest, the rain of arrows is coming." The green shadow of the tree crown flashed, and dozens of elven archers appeared, with long hair like willows, cold blue eyes, and bowstrings buzzing. The arrows were like green rain, with a natural poisonous glow. They penetrated the leather armor and hit the archer. the cavalry fell to the ground and twitched. The green light purified the blood and did not stain the forest. "Thank you, ally," Yanran shouted, her blue eyes shining with gratitude. Lan Xian nodded and fired her bow and arrow, the way of symbiosis. At the same time, Yanlin sneaked behind the enemy camp, cut off the food and grass ropes with a flash of sword, lit the torch, and the fireworks shot into the sky, and the smoke column was as black as the smoke of a wolf. "Burn your food," he growled, sneaking like a shadow, avoiding the patrolling guards who sealed their throats with a sword, and easily obtained the intelligence bag. The enemy camp was in chaos, the horses neighed and fled, the magicians were distracted from putting out the fire, and the front collapsed. Victory recedes like a tide, the setting sun falls on the battlefield, and the smell of blood gradually dissipates, replaced by the freshness of soil and green buds. Yanran commanded the cleanup. Jiming's army dragged back the prisoners and trophies, armor, horses, and gold coins piled into a hill. System prompt, annexing the kingdom outpost, Donglin camp is included in the territory. Resources plus 300%, territory expansion. She ordered reconstruction, the outpost wooden village was dismantled and transported back, and the ore iron was fused to build the city wall, as tall as an iron wall, the square was paved with stones, and the magic tower extended vine lampposts to illuminate the prototype of the night market. The goblins dug the foundation excitedly and shouted, "It's a city. Boss, we have a home." The elf craftsmen joined in. Green light poured into the building, protective flowers grew on the walls, and the fragrance of flowers lingered in the air. The territory was upgraded from a fortress to a prototype of a city, rows of houses, the beginning of a market, the military camp expanded into a school ground, the population exceeded 100, and the girl's face was shining with pride when looking down. From the edge of the forest, to here, my empire has begun. Inner growth is as solid as a city wall, and leadership not only resolves rebellions, but also unites the hearts of the people. But the turning point is like a dark cloud. Late at night, the crystal of the magic tower flashed an alarm. Yanlin gasped and returned to camp, leaving the information scroll. "Yenner, something bad happened. The kingdom's reinforcements of 10,000 people will arrive in 3 days, led by the prince's personal guards. But what's worse, they colluded with the Monster Alliance. The Northern Goblin King and the Necromancer joined forces and promised to divide the forest in exchange for internal support. Guild information says that the wizard wants to seize your Legion core." The scroll was unfolded, and the ink marked the conspiracy. The kingdom's burning of the forest was a cover, and the real intention was to induce civil strife among the monsters and reap profits. The Monster Alliance hid in the northeast abyss, threatening to annex everything. Lan Xian's green eyes darkened. The elf scouts confirmed. Dark forces are surging, and the curse of the undead may originate from them. Jiming tapped his bones on the ground. "My lord, this battle is not simple. The root cause needs to be cut off." Gugu trembled. "Monster traitor." Gugu's tribe. Yanran's colloid shrank within the girl's form, and her blue eyes shone like stars. Panic flashed, but her courage was rekindled. From defending her homeland to countering the conspiracy, she was determined to take a step beyond the empire. "Don't be afraid. We annexed the outpost and proved our strength. Now, the counterattack begins. Jiming, send scouts to explore the Monster Alliance. Lan Xian, expand the Elf Alliance. Yanlin, the insider of the guild, spread rumors of collusion in the kingdom. Iron Claw, the beast herd patrols the border." She ordered, her voice resounded throughout the school grounds, and everyone responded in unison, "Yes, boss." The inner monologue was as short as an oath. "In my previous life, I was weak and watched the show. Now, I want to rewrite the rules. The empire not only defends the land, but also conquers the shadows." The wind blows through the city wall, rustling the leaves, indicating a bigger storm. Yanran looks to the northeast, and the blue light never goes out. The shadows of the northeastern abyss spread like ink, and the wind was filled with the smell of decaying bone meal and the low roar of monsters in the distance. Yanran stood on the top of the magic tower, her blue eyes sweeping across the school grounds. After everyone responded in unison, the air was filled with the warm smell of rust and sweat. Act. Ximing, expand the legion first. She ordered crisply, her girlish skirt fluttering in the wind. Ximing's red eye sockets flashed, and his bony fingers tapped the ground. My lord, you can call upon the remaining strength in the cemetery. Double it, tonight. He turned around, waved his giant sword, and the door of the underground barracks opened, and a clicking sound came out like a tide. Yanran silently recited the system, integrating and purifying green light. The energy of the undead flows in like a stream, the broken bones are automatically assembled, hundreds of new skeletons crawl up, and the eye sockets burn with blue and red flames, which are no longer purely cold, but with natural rhythm. Double, 500 legions. Gugu's eyes widened, and he waved his stick excitedly. Boss, there are so many ghost soldiers. Let's smash the humans. Lan Xian's green robe floated as she climbed the tower steps, her blue eyes deep. The elders of the elves have agreed to join. The forest cannot bear to be burned. Our bows, arrows, and magic are for your empire. She waved her hand, and the green shadows of the treetops flickered, and hundreds of elves fell like willow leaves. Their long hair reached their waists, holding green bows, and the fragrance of flowers was strong in the air, accompanied by the murmur of ancient songs. Ally. Yanran touched her hand, and the warmth was like interweaving vines. Thank you, Lan Xian. This is not my war, this is everyone's home. Lan Xian smiled, and green light poured into the tower, the way of symbiosis. Tomorrow, the craftsmen of the tribe will build a vine wall to protect the border. The alliance expanded like the spread of fire, and elf scouts scattered into the forest to detect traces of the monster alliance. Goblins and beasts were busy in the school, iron claws roared to command patrols, and gray-furred wolves howled in response. Yanran's heart warmed slightly. The lonely rental house in her previous life was like a distant nightmare. Now, this is her foundation. Yanlin sneaked back from the guild and dropped the information scroll. His brown hair was wet with sweat and his sword was stained with blood. Yenner, it's done. Rumors have been spread, the kingdom is colluding with the Goblin King, and there is chaos inside. The magicians are suspicious of themselves, and the border fortress defenses are loose. He breathed and laughed, with a rough tone. Those nobles were so scared that they had diarrhea when they heard that the monster alliance was going to cut them into pieces. Yanran blinked her blue eyes and patted his shoulder. Brother, good job. The intelligence is misleading, we attack the fortress tonight. Annexing half the border begins here. Yanlin nodded, and his eyes changed from his partner to his brother. Okay, I owe you my life, I will fight for it. Ximing, I will lead the way during the attack, the side door is weak. Ximing saluted with his bone arm. Human, prove your loyalty. During the interaction, Yanlin snorted, Ghost General, don't look down on people. We'll see. The laughter echoed in the school grounds, and unity was like steel. The night was like ink, and the army set off. Yanran took the lead, and the colloid pulsed in the girl's form, integrating the three forces, the undead soul as the backbone, the elf nature as the bloodline, and the human intelligence as the sharp blade. Ximing led 500 skeletons forward, marching like a ghost tide, orchid green light escorted, chanting a barrier, vines surrounded the team like green mist, the scent of grass in the air covered up the smell of bone meal. Yanlin sneaked on the flanks, the sword light was faint. The border fortress stands at the edge of the forest, high walls with iron spikes, towers with swaying torches, hundreds of defenders patrolling, and horses neighing and smelling of alcohol. The kingdom's flag was hunting, and the sentry at the door whispered, the monsters are in chaos, the prince's personal guards have not arrived yet. Breathe a sigh of relief. Yanlin whispered, the misdirection worked, they thought there was civil unrest, and their defenses were low. The sudden burst like thunder exploded. Ximing was in great red flames and roared, shoot! The army emerged from Lining, the giant sword danced in the iron chain, the kulpa slashed the ground, and the guards woke up and shouted, evil! Monster army! The arrow rained in the basin, whizzing and breaking the wind, but Lanshin's barrier spread open, green light slammed like a shield, and the vines shot backwards, piercing the sentry's throat, and the smell of blood swung. Before Yanran's eyes, the girl's condition disintegrated into semi-tangible rubber. The blue-green body flows like a silver, the touch is stretched like a whip, absorbing the energy of the arrow, and turning the blue flame backwards. In! She shouted softly, and her heart was burning. This is my empire, protecting the weak, never retreat. The door of the side of the skull penetrated, and a sword sealed the throat to guard the iron gate, pushing the iron gate. Inside, the treasure is in the main tower. The guards were in a mess, and the sound of the shield collided without any absolute sound. The torch fell to the ground and the flames were slapped, and the smoke was filled with bitter taste of burnt wood. It's as refreshing as the tide. The three forces of the climax battle are fusion. Jiming attacks the main door, the skeleton is fearless, the broken bones regenerate and the storm is galloping, the giant sword is like a harvest, and the sacred call is connected. Lanshin's magic barrier protects the navigation, green vines explode and rolls on the tower building, Archer's green rain basin, shoot down the magician's fireball, the air tear apart, and the fragrance of flowers does not dissipate, the story of the sacred story. Misled the inside, triggering the storm, and the fireworks swept the heavens and the enemy's heart, tracist. The kingdom's ghost. The defenders fought each other, and the sword light was in turmoil. Yanran approached the core, the semi-realistic rubber jumped like a shadow, and the touching hand roamed the fortress's head, an iron-armored rider, absorbing his guard energy, and the blue-green light shone brightly. Surrender. Your kingdom, burning forests and harming people, we will stop the war. She said softly and powerfully. The host stared at the sword and said, Monster. The kingdom will last forever. But the glue was tightened and the energy was drained. He fell to the ground with soft armor and slashed the ground. Conquering the fortress is like a flash. The army rushed in, and the sound of the storm was drowned. The spirit archer occupied the tower building, and the green light purified the blood. The goblin followed the resources and slammed the stick and smashed the lock, the treasure house open. Boss, a magic weapon. Yanran slid into the ground of the main tower, and the gold door was pried open, and the light reflected the jewel pile. The coldness of the gold and magical surplus in the air were like wine. Central artifact protection talisman flashes, a blue-gold hanging wall, engraved royal runes, and activate pure energy. This is a magical artifact of the royal family inheritance. Su Lin shouted softly. Yanran touches his hands, the system flashes, artwork fusion, slime's shape improvement, semi-realistic battle type. Flexibility plus immortal plus elemental shield. Energy flows in like a tide, reshaping the body. The body is condensed like a girl's armor, the blue-green skin is flashing with a shield, the touch can transform the blade, and the power is like a peak to explode. Wow, no enemy. She whispered, and her heart turned like a wave. She reborn in her original intention, recalling the beach without help, her weak in her previous life could not protect herself. Now, this artifact made her confident peak, the ruler, no longer fearful, protect all the weak, and build the Yongheng Empire. After the victory, the swallowing spreads like wildfire. The fortress was dismantled and returned, and the picture was expanded to half the edge. Donglin mining is fully controlled, the river valley on the north side is embedded, the walls of the Spirit Ivy City are surrounded by a new land, the Deadly Whistle Tower is standing, the Goblin Market is hot, and horses and iron armor are distributed to the public. Gugu rode the new horse, and excitedly shouted, Boss, the edge is ours. The iron claws growled, the beasts are stretched, it's great. Lon Xian patted with a smile, natural balance, the forest is grateful. Jiming replied, Pirate is surrendering, the situation, the king is angry. Yanran looked down on the picture, and the semi-realistic blue eyes were like stars. The empire is shaking, from zero to this, I did it. Confidence is like a peak, and my heart is unique and short, the original intention is not changed, protecting the weak, now I have the strength, no one can destroy it. But it turns like a thunder. The magic tower crystal flashed wildly, and Wang Lin rushed to the top of the tower, and the scroll trembled his hand, Yen. The King of Kings is in power. The army of thousands of people arrived within 3 days, and the prince was the leader, and the magic army was all out. Hearing, they vowed to kill monsters and burn all the way to the edge. The scroll opened, and the ink marks the army, fire dragon racing, elemental magician, and the crown on the flag was shining. Lan Xian's blue eyes sank. The spirit clan is fighting. The battle is approaching. Jiming's bone finger knocked on the tower. My lord, this battle determines the universe. Gugu's voice said, Gugu and the boss. Yanran held the artifact protection talisman, and the blue light moved, and the wind blew his hair. Come on. The Empire, wait for you. The fire in his heart, the concept of protection has deepened, and this battle will be conferred the imperial destiny. Tower light illuminates the night sky, military drums are hidden, and preheating bloody wars are storms. Smoke and dust engulfed the border of Donglin like a wild dragon. The hoofbeats of tens of thousands of cavalry shook the earth, war drums roared like thunder, and the air was filled with the salty smell of rust, scorched earth, and sweat. Yanran stood on the top of the magic tower, her semi-corporeal colloid-shaped blue-green skin flashed with a shield halo, and her artifact amulet pulsed with blue-gold light. Her blue eyes locked on the kingdom's army on the horizon, the fire dragon cavalry arrayed, the elemental mage hunted in his robe sleeves, the prince's personal guard flag was raised high, the leading king sat in the middle of the army, and his crown reflected the golden light of the sun. Here comes, the decisive battle. She whispered, the wind ruffling her long blue-green hair, and her heart accelerating like a war drum. In her previous life, she always hid in a corner to survive. Now, with this army of 10,000 people pressing down on her like a mountain, she felt a surge of hot blood rising from the depths of the colloid. It was no longer about survival, but about conquest. Under the tower, the school grounds were as lively as a pre-war rally. Jiming waved his bone arm, and the 1,000-skeleton army lined up, with red and blue flaming eye sockets flashing. My lord, the undead will never die, and I swear to destroy the intruders. Ironclaw commanded the beasts with a low roar, the Greyford wolf roared in the forest, the goblin pushed the mine cart to supply, Gugu waved his stick and shouted, Boss, smash it, flatten them. Gugu's stick is ready. Lan Xian's green robe fluttered, and her blue eyes swept over the crowd. The elven bow array is in place, and the spirit of the forest is protecting you. Yanlin held the sword and jumped up to the tower steps. His brown hair was wet with sweat, and his tone was rough but firm. Yenner, I will lead the intelligence team to attack from the side. The ghost in the guild has been eliminated, and the civil strife in the kingdom has intensified. We have a chance. Yanran nodded, and patted his shoulder with her tentacles, which were as warm as glue to relieve the tension. Brother, I believe you. Jiming, the forward ambush, Lan Xian, the magic wall to block the fire, Iron Claw, the beast herd in chaos. The whole army, counterattack hit. Her voice resounded loudly throughout the school grounds, and everyone shouted in unison, Yes, boss. The core of the empire was running like a living machine, the vine walls glowed with green light, the crystals on the top of the tower buzzed to detect the enemy, and the air was mixed with wheat incense, bone meal, and rust, foreshadowing the outbreak of a bloody battle. The army pressed down like a tidal wave, and the first wave of fire dragon cavalry rushed in. Flame spears sprang out like fiery snakes. The heat wave burned the forest trees, and the bitter smell of burnt wood hit their nostrils. The prince shouted, Burn the demon nest. Long live the kingdom. The elemental mage chanted, and the fireballs hit the fortress like meteorites, exploding the earth and splashing, and the sound of cracking stones was endless. Yanran didn't panic and silently recited the command of the artifact, Swallowing Wave, activate. The blue-gold talisman flashed, and her semi-corporeal colloid expanded like a huge wave. She bounced down from the top of the tower, her tentacles stretched out and turned into a blue-green torrent, and her colloid body seeped into the enemy formation like living mercury. Swallow. She growled, her heart burning. In her previous life, she was weak and just wanted to survive. Now, this wave will change her destiny. The colloidal tentacles whipped like whips, wrapping around the flame lancers, absorbing the energy of the armor and horses, and transforming the blue flames into backfires. The cavalry screamed, "Monster! My talisman, melted!" The formation collapsed, the fire dragon's flame tongue was engulfed, the blue and green waves surged forward, swallowing dozens of cavalry, and the resources were like streams. Feedback system, iron ore plus 200, pyromantic essence unlocked. The feeling of excitement rushed through her body like an electric current, and she won the first battle in a row. She felt the pleasure of conquest coming over her like a wave, no more hiding, she was the master of the empire. The Jiming Legion took advantage of the situation and sprang out. The crackling bone tide hit the central army, the giant sword swept across the broken gun, and the fearless regeneration made the mage's fireball ineffective. The skeleton was shattered and reorganized, and blood and flesh splashed and jingled with bone fragments. The orchid green light barrier unfolds, the vines wrap around the mage's robe like a green dragon, the bow rain pours down the flame ball, and the air tears and roars, and the fragrance of flowers lingers. "Nature bites back," she chanted, her green eyes cold. The iron-clawed beasts were scurrying on the flanks, their wolf claws were tearing apart the horse's belly, the goblins were throwing stones like rain, and their sticks were hitting their helmets with a loud bang. "Eat my stick." Yanran sneaked into the rear, sealed the throats of the scouts with a sword, and burned the flag. Civil unrest in the kingdom. Ghost. The enemy troops were fighting each other, swords flashing, and the prince roared, "Hold on." The magic tower destroyed it. But the wave of Yanran arrived, and the colloid torrent swallowed up the tower guards, absorbing the elemental crystals, and the shield rebounded to attack. The winning streak is like a snowball. In the second battle, the king's personal guards rushed in. Tens of thousands of people formed an iron formation like an iron wall, and there were many spears piercing the waves. Yanran's colloid shrank and reshaped, and her tentacles turned into sword blades that shone blue and gold. "Come on." She jumped into the center of the formation, and the devouring wave erupted. The colloid flooded the gun formation like a tsunami, absorbing the soldier's spiritual power and transforming it into immortal regeneration. The surrounding skeleton legions doubled their strength, and the clicking sound was like an army marching together. The king stared and drew his sword. "Where is the monster?" The flame spear was stabbed, but it was bounced away by the shield. Yanran's tentacles wrapped around her, and she said softly, "The kingdom burned the forest to harm people, and the law of the jungle should end. Surrender, I will protect you." But the king roared back, and his sword energy was like a dragon. There was a sudden change in her heart. When she was fighting for her life, she was afraid of the powerful, but now, this sword energy only excites her. Conquest starts with destroying the old forces. She released the fusion flame technique. Blue and green fireballs exploded into the center of the army, flame tongues engulfed the bodyguards, they screamed like ghosts, the air was filled with the bitter taste of burnt flesh. In the third battle, the remnants of the army fled the border fortress, and were pursued by a wave of beauty, swallowing up the iron gates of the city. The legions poured in and swept across. The fortress collapsed like paper, and the king's flag fell to the ground in the billowing smoke. After the fortress was destroyed, victory erupted like an orgy. The core of the empire is upgraded, the remaining iron and stone are transported back, fused with the energy of the artifact, the city wall towers into the prototype of the imperial capital, the magic tower extends the blue and gold veins, the vine palace rises from the ground, and the square is brightly lit. Yanran slid back to the school grounds, and the colloid reshaped her into a girl. Her blue eyes flashed with joy. "We won. The border is ours, the kingdom retreats." Everyone gathered around, Gugu hugged her legs. "What a god." Swallowing waves like a big water monster. Iron Claw clapped his claws and laughed. "The beasts have eaten their fill, it's great." Jiming Gugu knelt down and said, "My lord, the souls of the dead will forever swear." He smiled sweetly, patted everyone with his tentacles, and shared the joy of victory warmly. "This is not mine, it belongs to everyone." "Gugu, your stick hit the prince's flag." Iron Claw, "The beasts messed up their horses." Jiming, "The legion is invincible." Warmth surged in his heart, from surviving alone to conquering and sharing. This transformation is as vast as the Empire's territory. Yanran walked closer, sheathing his sword, and his brown eyes turned from gratitude to loyalty. Yenner, no, boss. I was a rookie in the guild, and I doubted you as a monster when I saved my life. Now, I see clearly. What you built is not a nest, but a home. The kingdom is rotten, and I will follow you. Deputy, okay. He said harshly, touching her arm with his shoulder, like an oath from an iron buddy. Yanran blinked her blue eyes and patted him on the back. Brother, from now on you are my right arm. The guild information depends entirely on you. During the interaction, his transformation was like steel tempering, deepening into unconditional loyalty. Lan Xian came closer, her green robe trembling slightly, her green eyes affectionate. After victory, the elf prophecy came true. The ancient scroll said, the blue and green spirit, from the weak to the strong, unifies nature and death, and builds an invincible empire. Yanran, you are the daughter of the prophecy. All the elders of the clan are loyal, and all the power of the forest belongs to you. She handed over the emerald pendant, which pulsated with the natural essence and filled the air with the fragrance of flowers. Yanran took it and touched her hand. Lanxin, thank you. Prophecy? Then let's fulfill it together. Lanxin smiled, coexistence, never alone. During the sharing, the growth was like interweaving vines, and Yanran felt that her dominance was at its peak. She was no longer a slime girl, but the queen of the empire. But the turning point was like a thunderous explosion. The crystal of the magic tower flashed wildly, and Jiming reported back at a gallop, my lord. The monster alliance took advantage of the chaos to attack. The northern goblin king led a wave of tens of thousands of demons to emerge from the abyss and attack the northern wing of the imperial capital. The necromancer secretly controlled it, intending to seize the artifact. In the distance, the demonic roar of the northern forest shook the sky, and the green-skinned goblins swarmed in like a swarm of insects, waving sticks, and the heel-bone monsters roared. The smell of fish and decay filled the air. A two-front crisis broke out. The kingdom's remnant army reorganized to the east, and torches were approaching faintly. The monsters were scurrying on the north wing, the goblins screamed and fled, and the Gugu's stick trembled. Boss, the traitorous monster is here. Yanlin drew his sword. Damn it, attack from both sides. Lan Xian's green eyes darkened. Wizard's curse, undead or backlash. Panic swept the school grounds like wind, but Yanran's blue eyes were undisturbed, and her inner determination was as steel. Double lines? Then rule with invincibility and resolve everything. She jumped to the top of the tower and shouted, all the troops, divide your forces. Jiming, lead the undead to attack the monsters in the north and purify the wizard's curse. Iron Claw, the beast herd in the east to block the kingdom's remnant army. Lan Xian, the center of the magic wall protection. Yanlin, lead the elven bow array on the flanks, cut off the goblin retreat. Gugugu, goblin, guard the home and supply. The order was like lightning, and everyone acted immediately. Jiming's red flames flashed, the legion rushed north, the bone tide crashed into the demon group, the giant sword chopped off the head of the goblin, the blue flame purified the bone demon, the wizard chanted the black mist, but was counterattacked by the artifact talisman, screaming and retreating. The iron claws roared eastward, the wolves tore apart the remaining riders, and their claws were like sickles to harvest. Yanlin's sword flashed, and he led the archer to strike sideways. The rain of arrows cut off the demon's retreat, and the greenskins collapsed and fled screaming. Yanran came to the center in person, and the devouring wave broke out in a small area. The colloid torrent blocked the monsters that slipped through the net, and absorbed the goblins' sticks to convert resources. The blue-green light protected the goblins. Don't be afraid. The boss is here, it's safe here. Gugu waved his stick to help. Yes. Smash the traitor. The two lines were resolved like arms and fingers. Seeing the evil, the kingdom's remnants retreated. The goblin king roared and fled into the abyss. The blood in the air gradually disappeared, and the school grounds returned to tranquility. As night fell, the lights of the imperial capital dimmed. Yanran slid down the steps of the tower, her blue eyes sweeping over the tired but excited crowd. The wind blew through the city wall and rustled the leaves, hinting that the storm on the mainland was not over yet. She held the amulet tightly, and the invincible light in her heart flashed. The empire is stable. But a bigger battle is still to come. In the far northern abyss, the devil's roar is faint, the lights of the East Palace are rekindled, and the crisis is like a shadow, waiting for the next blow. Word count, 1265. The north wind howled like a knife across the walls of the imperial capital, mixed with the distant roar of demons and the muffled sound of horse hooves, and the air was filled with the mixed smell of rust, decay, and scorched earth. Yanran slid down from the top of the tower, the semi-solid colloid pulsating in the blue-green halo, and the artifact amulet pressed against her chest and felt as warm as her heartbeat. She patted Gugu's green head and gently calmed his trembling with her tentacles. Don't panic, little guy. The demon wave just now is just an appetizer. The real storm is coming. Gugu tightened his grip on the stick and his eyes lit up stubbornly. Boss, Gugu, don't run away. Smash the devil. On the school field, the goblins pushed carts for supplies, and the iron claws roared and patrolled the border. Jiming's skeleton stood with a click, and the red and blue flaming eye sockets locked the north and east wings. Yanran wiped his sword and approached. His brown hair was messed up by the wind, and his tone was urgent. The scout reported that the kingdom's remnant army and the monster alliance have joined forces. The king personally led 10,000 knights, and the goblin king led the abyss demon tide to attack from the northeast. The prince is in front, and the necromancer is behind, vowing to destroy our empire. Lan Xian's green robe trembled slightly, and her blue eyes swept over the crowd. In the prophecy, the Dark Alliance will test the true heart. Yanran, are you ready? Her beautiful blue eyes flashed, and her heart was as firm as steel. In her previous life, she always retreated in crises. Now, as this two-front attack was imminent, she felt as calm as an emperor. The concept of protection took root like a vine. It was no longer the survival of the weak slimes, but the mission of dominating the continent. Ready. The whole army is assembled. Jiming, the undead in the vanguard to block the demonic tide from the north, Iron Claw, the beast herd to attack the king's cavalry from the east, Lan Xian, the center of the magic wall protection, Yanran, lead the elf bow formation to assassinate the prince. Gugu, Goblin, guard the home supply. I went to the battlefield in person, integrated everything, and sent out activate the ultimate summons. Her voice resounded clearly throughout the school grounds, and everyone roared in unison, yes, boss. The legion moved like a tide, with clattering steps, wolf howls, and green light intertwined. The imperial capital was like a living giant awakening. The crystal on the top of the tower buzzed to detect the enemy, and the smell of hot blood in the air became stronger. The decisive battle breaks out like thunder. The abyssal demonic wave arrived first in the north wing, with the goblin king tall and sitting on his horse, and the green-skinned army swarming like a swarm of insects. They waved their sticks and roared to the sky, followed by the necromancers. Black mist curled up, and the bone beasts roared and raised dust, and the smell of decay hit their nostrils. On the east side, the kingdom's cavalry roared with thousands of people. The king's crown was golden, the prince held the fire dragon flame spear, the elemental mage chanted the sea of fire, and the heat wave burned the forest and burned the scorched trees bitterly. The two armies merged to attack the imperial capital, and a tacit understanding of alliance was hidden in the flag hunting. The kingdom promised to divide the territory, and the devil offered dark magic. Jiming's red flames flourished, and he led thousands of skeletons forward to rush north. The undead are immortal, crush the demonic tide. The bone tide hit the goblins, and the giant sword swept across the severed limbs. There was a constant sound of cracking and shattering, and the green skins screamed and blood splattered. But the wizard's black mist seeped in, and the green flames of the curse burned the skeleton. Jiming's bone arm shattered, and he roared, "My lord, charge!" He leapt forward in a sacrificial style, and pierced the bone demon's heart with his giant sword. The red and blue flames flashed like the sun, and the curse backfired on himself, and the skeleton disintegrated into spots of light. Yanran's heart ached, and she silently recited the artifact: resurrection, fusion and immortality. The light points gathered, and Ji Ming was reborn stronger, bone and armor intertwined with gold and blue, as tall as an iron tower, holding 2 swords, and his eye sockets were as bright as twin stars. Thank you, my lord. The undead have been sublimated, and the army has doubled. Thousands of SK. The cavalry from the east wing rushed toward them like fire dragons, and the prince shouted, "Burn all the blue and green monsters." The flame spears burned the city wall, and the heat wave hit his face and the rocks melted. The beasts roared with iron claws to attack, the wolf claws tore the belly of the horse, the gray fur howled in chaos, and the smell of blood filled the air. But the mage's fire poured down, and the beasts howled and retreated. Yanran drew his sword and sneaked on the flank, leading the elven bow formation into a green shadow. "Boss, assassinate the prince." His tone was like iron, and the sword flashed to cut off the patrol. The archer shot down the flame spear with green rain, and the poisonous arrows pierced the leather armor. The prince counterattacked with his sword and blocked the arrow with his flame shield. Human traitor. Yanran jumped on the horse and sealed his throat with a sword, blood spurting out like a fountain, for the empire. The prince fell to the ground, the cavalry was in chaos, trampling on each other and screaming. The king roared, "My son! Magician, destroy, kill them." But Lan Xian's green eyes sank, and her green robe floated up to the top of the tower. Sacrifice. All the power of nature, dedicated to Yanran. She chanted an ancient spell, and green light poured out of her body like a river, blending into the magic tower, and the air was filled with the solemnity of sacrifice. Green dragons erupted from the vine wall, wrapping around the sea of fire and backfired on the mage. The sleeves of his robe were burned and screams of misery were heard everywhere. Lan Xian's face was pale, but she smiled and whispered, "Ally, I'll give you the increase. Balance, will last forever." The tower's blue, green and golden light intertwined, and energy surged towards Yanran. The climax is as exciting as the universe exploding. Yanran leapt into the center of the battlefield, the semi-solid colloid expanded into a giant blue-green spirit, and the artifact talisman pulsed to its peak, full everything. The ultimate summons. Undead immortality, natural vines, elemental flames, and human tactics flowed in like streams, and the colloid torrent turned into the shadow of the empire. Blue and green waves covered the battlefield, and tentacles came out like 10,000 swords, devouring iron cavalry horses and converting resources, absorbing the black mist curse and purifying it into blue flames. The system flashes wildly, ultimate form, Emperor's summons. Peak power, annexing the continent plus 100%. A huge wave hit the coalition forces, and the king drew his sword to attack. The golden crown sword was as powerful as a dragon, but Yanran's shield bounced away, and its tentacles wrapped around and drained away the spiritual power. The kingdom's law of the jungle is over. The king glared, how can you rule the continent? Gob. King Lin sprang out from the north, and the black mist of the bone staff erupted. Join us. The rule of darkness, invincible power. The temptation whispered like a poisonous snake, and an illusion flashed in his mind, an endless army of undead, swallowing up everything, with boundless power, but the forest was burned, and the weak were enslaved. Yanran's heart trembled. When she was weak in her previous life, she had envied the darkness and refreshingness. Now, this temptation reflected her original intention like a mirror. The idea of protection was rekindled like fire. No. My empire is a symbiotic home, not a slaughterhouse. She roared, her blue eyes were firm, and the ultimate summons exploded. The blue-green giant, the spirit, opens its mouth, and swallows the black mist and turns into green flames. The vine-green dragon assists the undead army. Ji Ming's twin swords lead the army to crush the demonic Tid. Victory swept like a carnival. Yanran's colloid shrinks and reshapes the girl's shape, her blue eyes sparkle with imperial light, and her inner transformation is like a peak transformation. After rejecting the darkness, she feels that power is no longer ambition, but a crown of responsibility. From reincarnation as a weakling to the pinnacle of dominance, this imperial mentality makes her have no regrets. Jiminggu knelt down and said, "My lord, the souls of the dead will forever swear." Lan Xian slid down from the tower, smiling with a pale face. The green light was weak but gentle, amplification successful, symbiosis, perfect. Yanlin wiped the blood and came closer, sheathed his sword and laughed. "Boss, the assassination is done. The kingdom is over, long live the empire." Gugu hugged her legs and cheered, swallowed a lot. "Boss is a god." Iron Claw roared and clapped his claws, the goblins pushed the cart to celebrate, and the elf songs echoed in the school grounds. The empire takes shape, the borders are inclusive, the Vinewood Imperial Palace rises from the ground, the golden and blue veins of the magic tower illuminate the continent, the market is bustling, legions patrol the border, and the resources are as abundant as heaven. But in the end the resistance lingered like an ember. The king was captured, kneeling on the school ground, his crown fell to the ground, and his tone was weak. "Monster, the kingdom will never be destroyed." Yanran came closer, her blue eyes were soft. "No, I am not a monster. I am Yanran, the Slime Emperor. Your burning forest is over, join us, and build peace together." The king hesitated, and finally bowed his head. "I believe you once." The turning point was solved, the remaining army surrendered, the remaining goblins were purified and surrendered, the abyss was sealed, and the invincible territory of the empire was initially determined. As night falls, lights dim, Yanran ascends to the balcony of the imperial palace, her hair is blown by the wind, and the blue light reflects the continent. The empire has gone from zero to domination, but peace still needs to be protected. The aftermath is faintly visible in the distance, ready for perfect rule, everyone is gathered around, and the laughter is as warm as home. Word count, 1247. The sun shines like gold dust on the imperial plaza, and the green walls of the Fujimu imperial palace tremble gently in the breeze. The air is filled with the sweet fragrance of flowers, the burnt aroma of barbecue, and the moist moisture of the valley in the distance. The aftermath of the decisive battle has dissipated, and the north wind is no longer biting, replaced by the warm spring breeze. Natural magic regenerates the burned forest trees, green buds break through the ground, and the birdsong is as clear as a bell. Yanran stood on the balcony of the imperial palace, the semi-corporeal colloid reshaped into the form of a girl with long blue-green hair, the divine amulet clinging to her chest pulsing with blue-gold light. Her blue eyes swept across the school grounds below, the undead army lined up neatly, their skeletons clicking and flashing with blue and red flames. The elf archers smiled in the green shadow, the goblins and goblins labored to push the carts to celebrate, and the newly surrendered kingdom soldiers removed their armor and blended into the crowd, and their laughter echoed like a warm current. From the lonely beach at the beginning of her reincarnation to now controlling the border, this territory is like her mind, expanding into a paradise. "Boss! The celebration has begun." Gugu rushed from the square to the balcony, his green skin covered with juice, waving a newly carved wooden stick, his eyes bright like a puppy wagging its tail. "Gugu has prepared fireworks. Smash, no, bloom for everyone to see." She smiled sweetly and patted his head with her tentacles. The touch was rough and warm. "Okay, little guy. From the first day you joined to now helping me guard the house, you have grown up." Gugu scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. "Hey, the boss is the best. Remember? Gugu was hungry back then, so you gave me the fruits. Now, the empire has a big orchard, and everyone is no longer hungry." His words were like warm wind, bringing back memories, the simple wooden house on the edge of the forest, the clumsy laughter of the first follower. Yanran's heart warmed slightly. The loneliness in the rental house in her previous life was like a distant mist. Now, this is her big family. In the square, the crowd gathered more and more, the elves had long hair flowing like willows, the short figures of the goblins were busy distributing food, the soldiers of the kingdom looked curiously at the undead army, and the children chased the little slimes and slid around, giggling. Lan Xian emerged from the green shadow, her green robe fluttering slightly, her green eyes as soft as spring water. She approached Yanran, handed over a blue-green corolla, and touched her hair. "Yanran, the daughter of prophecy. During the celebration, announce it. All the elves will surrender, and I will serve as the magic consultant, integrating the power of nature to make the empire prosperous forever. Her voice was clear, with a warm closeness, like an old friend whispering. Yanran put on the flower crown and blinked her blue eyes. Lan Xian, thank you. From the vigilance when we first met the ruins to the symbiosis now, you taught me to balance darkness and green. Without you, the empire is just an empty shell. Lan Xian smiled, green light sprinkled on the balcony. Looking back on the process, they went from misunderstanding to alliance. Remember the day when Vine Guardian was unlocked? Your territory changed from a village to a fortress. I thought to myself, this slime is different. Now, look at this paradise. They looked at each other and smiled, and their interaction was like the intertwining of vines. Their warmth revealed the deep affection that had gone through trials and tribulations. Yanlin squeezed through the crowd, with messy brown hair. He held a roll of newly drawn maps in his hand and tapped the stairs lightly with his sword scabbard. Boss, the diplomat has taken office. The remaining nobles of the kingdom have signed a peace treaty, and the border to the core have been integrated into the empire. The Bloodless One, the guild has been reorganized into an intelligence network, and resources are shared. He said gruffly, his eyes turning from vigilance in the past to iron-blooded loyalty, like a big brother showing off his war profits. Yanran took the map and touched his arm lightly with her tentacle. Brother, from saving lives in the guild to assassinating the prince, you have always been my right arm. Remember the day I registered the card? We sneaked into the back hall and you called me a little girl when we stole information. Now, you let humans and monsters shake hands. Yanlin rubbed the back of his head and smiled awkwardly. I thought you were a monster at that time. Who knew that the empire you built turned me, a rookie, into a diplomat? Cool. In the core city of the kingdom, the imperial flag will be raised tomorrow. Gugu came up and said, human brother, teach Gugu how to negotiate. Gugu wants to be a little diplomat. Yanlin patted him on the shoulder and laughed, okay, little green skin, let's start by dividing the fruit. The interaction was lively, the square was full of laughter, and the supporting characters' reviews were like puzzle pieces, piecing together the journey from crisis to prosperity. Jiming came galloping from the north end of the school grounds. The skeleton horse stopped under the balcony with a clatter. The tall frame was intertwined with gold and blue, and its eye sockets were as bright as stars. He knelt on one knee, thrust his giant sword into the ground and said in a low voice, My lord, the eternal town of the border. The undead army patrols the abyss and seals the remnants of the Goblin King. After fusion and purification, we are no longer a curse, but a guardian. His voice was like a war drum, firm but gentle. Yanran slid down the balcony and touched his bone arm with her tentacles, pulsing with cold energy. Jiming, from resurrection in the cemetery to sublimation in the decisive battle, you are my general. Remember the first command? Your tactics allowed us to win consecutively. Now, with you on the border, the Empire has no worries. Jiming's red and blue flames flashed, and his bones trembled slightly like a smile. My lord, from deep sleep to reborn, you give me purpose. Protecting the weak is the rebirth of the undead. Iron Claw growled from the side and approached, patting Jiming on the shoulder. Ghost General, good cooperation. The beast herd listens to you, the border is stable. Jiming nodded. Beast King, let's guard together. The warm interaction was like an iron chain, and everyone gathered around to review the transformation from the undead crisis to the fusion guardian. The climax of the classic is like a fireworks. Yanran climbed to the central high platform of the building, the blue-green spirit was slightly exposed, and the artifact talisman burst into blue gold. She raised her arms high, and her clear voice spread across the mainland, dear partners, allies, and family. From the weak slime in the forest in the world to the core of today's imperial border, Yanran declared, the slime empire was established. After the words came, the system finally upgraded like a tide, Emperor mode is unblocked. Combining nature, spirit, and human elements, the heaven of prosperity takes shape. The square was shaken, the crystals were flourishing on the magic tower, the blue-green golden light was like a ridge, the vines grew from the ground into arches, the flowers were filled with honey fragrance and the nose was filled with demonstrations, the skeletons were like Huali military gifts, the flames turned into smoke and opened fire, reflecting the night sky like a galaxy, the spirit chanted, the green light poured into the earth, the dry land turned into fertile soil, the river valley. Water rose, the goblins called for recommendation to divide the car, and the king's soldiers took off their armor and joined the singing and dancing. The invincible army group display, Jiming's 1,000 skeletons practiced, the giant sword was swept without any damage to every grass or a tree, the iron claws and beasts group clothing demonstration, the wolf pack plays with children, the Yanran diplomatic simulation, shake hands with the illusion tribe, map projection swallows up all the power, the core city of the kingdom opened bloodlessly, the demon king kneeled down, the tribe in the border was smooth, the layout was like a blue-green light network covering the mainland. The refreshing explosion, Yanran finally summoned a small area, the huge blue and green waves were light and soft to the square, swallowing the virtual enemy's redirected resources rain. In the sermon, bloodlessness is as strange as a scene. Projection shows, the Chilean diplomatic team arrived at the core capital, the noble tribe opened the city gate, the flag was converted into the blue-green emperor flag, the Jiming army was sealed with deep penis, the goblin king was slapped with a stick, and the magic wave transformed into a new city, Lanqin's magic advisor chanted, the mainland naturally recovered, burned forests and turned into green continents. Weak monsters and refugees rushed into the empire, and protected and built a family. Yanran felt contentment in her heart, from the panic of the weak slime to the peak of the guardian, this electricity became full of fullness, the original intention was realized, to protect the innumerable people, no longer have to be alone, and the mainland became a paradise. She was short and silent in her heart, she had no way to change her previous life, but now, I have built the Yongheng home. Strength is not conquest, but warmth. Late at night, the warmth of the scriptures has not dissipated, and the sun is alone in the top of God's palace, looking at the mainland with blue eyes. The stars are bright, the lights and fires are connected in the distance, and the wind blows the fragrance of flowers and laughter. Lan Xian, Yulin, Jiming, Gugu and others surrounded him and replied in a humble manner, from the wooden house to the imperial palace, we have passed. Yanran turned around and smiled and embraced the people. In the future, the empire will be prosperous forever. Let's guard together. The endless thoughts ended, the mainland was peaceful, the readers' hearts were filled with strength and satisfaction, and her blue light reflected in the stars, and the empire was like the eternal light. Number of words, 1248.